नमस्ते। नमस्ते। मेरा आप सभी से आग्रह रहेगा कि कृपया कर आप अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें। A very, very warm welcome, good morning on the second and concluding day of Samagam 2023. So, especially for the benefit of friends and associates who joined us today on the concluding day, while my colleague Sarbani will take you through the proceedings of the day, but very, very quickly, what happened yesterday was that we had an inaugural session followed by a knowledge session and then 5 panel discussions, which centered around the themes of ground experiences, of actual ground experiences, then inclusion of marginalized communities, how the CSR and donor networks can be strengthened to in fact, strengthen the issues around which Samagam is centered, followed by an in-depth dialogue on PRI CBO conversions, followed by the 5th session, which was on capacity building. So this is what essentially happened yesterday. We had a full day. We began at 10 o'clock in the morning, finished around 6:30 in the evening. So this is what happened yesterday. As far as today is concerned, today is a much shorter day. We have, if I may say so, 2.5 sessions. So in the first mini session, as I mentioned, Sarbani Bose from Pradhan will take us through what actually happened yesterday. So that is part A. And then we have 2 where we will more sort of deep dive into our session, the 6th and the last session of today, which is around the policy landscape, followed by, of course, as we can all understand, way forward. What really is it that, what is it that we really need to do to take this ahead? I also wish to mention, which is something that we said several times yesterday, and once again for our esteemed guests who are here today, that Samagam 2023 is essentially built around the triumvirate of Sarkar, Samaj and Bazaar. So how do we align these 3 different components into doing meaningful work for our villages, for our blocks, for our districts, state, and of course our country and the world at large. Samagam this is the 4th edition of Samagam. The first edition was held in 2018. This 2-day program, which has taken almost 2 months to conceptualize, even more than 2 months, and a lot of hard work has gone behind Samagam 2023. So this is essentially brought together by Pradhan with, of course, very, very generous support from the Axis Bank Foundation. And through this stage, on behalf of Pradhan, I would profusely like to thank Axis Bank Foundation for their very, very generous contribution. We are also extremely grateful that Niti Aayog and CII Foundation have also partnered with us in bringing Samagam 2023. So this is a brief sort of little bit context setting. Going ahead, we have a film to share with you, but before we come to the film, let me very, very briefly and quickly introduce Ms. Sarbani Bose to you, who will take you through the proceedings of yesterday. Sarbani works as an integrator at Pradhan. She has more than 2 decades of experience in working closely with government departments and other donor agencies. She has focused a lot on livelihood and gender and tribal dominated districts of India. She has worked extensively with women collectives for perspective building around gender and leadership development. She has a lot of expertise and is very proficient in designing and implementing large-scale development projects. So she has done, as of course one can imagine, lots of very serious work in the past 2 decades. Before I invite Sarbani to the stage, हम एक फ़िल्म आपको दिखाना चाहेंगे. एक 3 मिनट की फ़िल्म है और बड़ी ही प्रेरणादायक ये 3 मिनट की फिल्म आप देखेंगे। इस फिल्म की पृष्ठभूमि ये है कि इस फिल्म को बनाने में सर्वप्रथम जो है हम इस मंच के माध्यम से धन्यवाद भी अपना आभार प्रकट करना चाहेंगे देश के विख्यात कवि, लेखक, गीतकार, संगीतकार आदरणीय श्री प्रसून जोशी जी को। तो उन्होंने इस गीत की जो है पंक्तियाँ लिखी हैं और बेहद जैसा मैंने कहा बड़ी प्रेरणादायक फिल्म है। मुझे इस बात का पूरा भरोसा है कि आपको फिल्म बड़ी पसंद आएगी। और इस फिल्म को बनाने में उनके प्रसून जी को सहयोग देने के लिए फिल्म के जो निर्देशक हैं श्री किरित खुराना जी, फिल्म का जो संगीत दिया है वो अक्षय NIP ने। इसके अलावा जो इस फिल्म के निर्माता हैं, जो 3 मिनट की जो प्रस्तुति है वो श्री गुरमीत गुलाटी जी, तो हम सभी के आभारी हैं। ये जो फिल्म है, जिस चीज़ को लेकर हम सब यहाँ एकत्रित हुए हैं, उन्हीं मूल्यों के ऊपर आधारित है। किस तरीके से समाज, सरकार, बाज़ार मिलकर ज़मीन पर काम कर सकते हैं। तो जो कोलैबोरेशन की पूरी थीम है, कम्युनिटी की जो पूरी थीम है, उसी के ऊपर ये फिल्म है। बिना किसी विलंब के मैं अपने साथियों से आग्रह करना चाहूँगा कि वो जो है फिल्म की शुरुआत तुरंत करें। धन्यवाद।
चल चल चले साथ साथ, जुड़कर चले साथ साथ, थामे उम्मीदों का हाथ अब चल चल चल। चल चल चले साथ साथ, जुड़कर चले साथ साथ, थामे उम्मीदों का हाथ अब चल चल चल। निकले इरादों की टोली लिए हम करें एक दूजे को शक्ति प्रदान। रातों के चेहरे भुलाने हैं हमको, नए राग सुबह के गाने हैं हमको। बदलाव की फौज कदमों में लेकर नए रास्ते भी बनाने हैं हमको। नई उस तलवों को छू कर कहे कि ये है नया एक प्रभात। चल चल चले साथ साथ, जुड़कर चले साथ साथ, हमें उम्मीदों का हाथ अब चल चल चल। चल चल चले साथ साथ, जुड़कर चले साथ साथ, हमें उम्मीदों का हाथ अब चल चल चल।
कैसे चल पाओगे, इस आंधी में कैसे संभल पाओगे। मगर हम तो सच्ची सी बारिश लिए, आशा लिए, मन में कोशिश लिए, समंदर की लहरों से उठ जाएंगे। लिए हौसले हम तो लहराएंगे, हमसे ही होगी शुरुआत।
चल चल चले साथ साथ, जुड़कर चले साथ साथ, हमें उम्मीदों का हाथ अब चल चल चल। निकले इरादों की टोली लिए हम करें एक दूसरे को शक्ति प्रदान। चल चल चले साथ साथ, जुड़कर चले साथ साथ, हमें उम्मीदों का हाथ अब चल चल चल। चल चल चले साथ साथ, जुड़कर चले साथ साथ, हमें उम्मीदों का हाथ अब चल चल चल।
Hello, a very good morning to all of you, and I welcome all of you for the second day of Samagam 2023. And as you all know, the Samagam this year is focusing on understanding LSDG, the perspective, the policies, and also the kind of practice that we would like to see. So yesterday we had a very rich discussions, and I think the esteemed guest for different panels, they actually shared their experiences, ideas, and how they would like to see the LSDGs to look. So yesterday it started with Ms. Dhruvi Shah from Axis Bank Foundation. She shared about and she emphasized on the community-centered approach and how the local leadership building can only lead to achieving the SDGs. She also talked about that how the large networks of philanthropy can actually influence the boardroom decisions and the urgency of collaborating to make the SDGs grounded. Secretary MORD, Mr. Shailesh Kumar, he highlighted the large social mobilization base that over the years DNRLM could create and how this potential has actually seen the women leadership playing different roles right from COVID, financial inclusion, and how these women have been playing an important role in even scaling up the livelihood programs. He also talked about how the PRI CBO convergence framework has been instrumental in formulating the GPDP and also the integration of the village prosperity and resilience plan in the different programs. So currently the VPRP has been taken up at large scale, and women, especially the SHG collectives, they are preparing this plan, and this is more based on the principle of inclusion, which talks about assetization, livelihoods. So it has an opportunity for the women to play an important role in the Gram Panchayat development plan. Also, he talked about how the SDGs, breaking the SDGs into LSDGs would actually help the panchayats to simplify these SDG indicators and make it happen in the ground. And we all know about the Lakpati farmers, the 2 crore women Lakpati farmers, which is an ambitious target that DNRLM is moving towards. And he also talked about the Manrega as a social security net through community-centric approach. Both these approaches are very critical if we really want to achieve the LSDGs. Seema Arora from CII Foundation talked elaborately about the need for sustainability, if we really want to achieve the SDGs, we need to talk about sustainability of the indicators, and the CII can bring the agenda on the table. She also talked about the important role of industries towards the accountability of no one left behind and the climate action. Mr. Sunil Kumar, ex-secretary MOPR, he shared his concern about how local governance has been ignored for a long time. Out of the 9 themes of LSDGs, women-friendly theme, which is LSDG 9th, has not been selected by most of the panchayats. And we have also seen that how gender equality is still not the priority of the panchayats. People's Plan campaign across the country could create synergies between different stakeholders towards the GPDP planning processes. And he also emphasized that why data at the ground level, data at panchayat level is important for the development of the plans for panchayats. Then Mr. Sunil Kumar, he also talked about, we are more comfortable as NGOs and as CSRs, as donors, talking to the government departments, secretaries, but not with the panchayats. If we really want to include panchayats, we need to go meet them and work with them. Ms. Sonali Srivastav from Anode Governance Lab, she presented the summary of SDG, LSDG and PDI, which is part of the PDI Volume 1 prepared by MOPR. She started with the India's rank, which is 112 out of 166 countries as per the SDG index, which is not only worrisome, but there's a long way to go. She also talked about that panchayats have been entrusted with 29 subjects, and we have seen that if panchayats function well, they can actually impact all the 29 subjects. She also talked about that how the panchayat can impact rupees 400,000 crore of rural development expenditure, which includes different key schemes like Manrega, National Health Mission, National Security Assistance Program, PMAY, if the panchayat starts functioning well. So that is a key to achieving LSDGs. She also explained the local indicator framework, which comprised of 9 themes, 168 targets, 389 indicators. Each panchayat has to select 2 to 3 themes which will be prioritized, and the Gram Panchayat development plan will be prepared based on that priority. Now, the challenge in implementation of LSDG, one of the challenge which is very important is the devolution of the 3 Fs, fund, function and functionaries. The second is the limited capacity of the panchayats. And the last but not least, she also talked about the lack of data at the level of panchayats. So right now, the aggregation of data or the data that are available in different government portals, if we compare with the data which is actually at the panchayat level, there may be variance. Then panel 1. So we had, as Anup shared, yesterday we had 5 panels, which actually I think the esteemed guests who participated, they shared their rich experience in each of these panels. So the panel 1 was basically the voices from ground zero, where panchayat leaders from Maharashtra, Karnataka, West Bengal, Jharkhand shared their rich experiences and special focus on working on theme 4, which is water sufficient village, and theme 5, that is clean and green village. They also shared that how the GPs ensured access to clean drinking water under Jal Jeevan Mission, access to toilets for all households and schools for making the panchayats open defecation free, and building plastic segregation centers at panchayat level. They also talked about their challenges, how some schemes were introduced by state without much training of the panchayats, and that has led to poor implementation of these programs. Dr. Thomas Isaac also shared about the importance of bottom-up planning. He talked about, that the panchayats, they prioritize their agenda not based on any data, but based on their own feeling and the lived experience. He also critiqued that the index-based development plan may not actually include the perspectives of the panchayats. So it is important that the panchayats with their own experience and perspective should come up with the Gram Panchayat development plans. Panel 2, which actually talked about the inclusion of marginalized section. This panel actually identified 3 important pillars for ensuring the inclusion of marginalized sections. One was participatory planning and identification of ultra poor by local communities. The second was how the trained cadres and the mentors at grassroots can actually, with dedicated verticals, can work with the community. The third, they talked about the ground monitoring and creation of some dedicated verticals. The panel also discussed about the ultra poor graduation approach, which comprises of mixed interventions, and it will take a period of over 24 to 36 months to make this for the graduation approach. We have also seen that how Day NRLM has adopted the flexible approach for ultra poor inclusion in different interventions, and how the programs right now have reached out to a large number of villages. Children between the, so our representative from UNICEF, Ms. Hyun-hee, she actually talked about how the children between the age of 0 to 9 years, 50% of these children from 1.1 billion poor families across 111 countries are actually ignored and they are not included. So India also needs to focus on SDG 3, which is actually talks about the child-friendly village. Panel 3, which was mainly on how CSRs can support the localization and realization of LSDGs. So the panel actually discussed about the need and urgency of working on SDG. They also talked about, while they are designing different program, how they consider the context of that region, the locality to design the program. And in a way, they shared that this also leads towards the achievement of the SDGs. LSDG is also about contextualizing the agenda. Donor-NGO relationship is critical. The panel talked about how the donor and NGO relationship, which is currently based on a power asymmetry, needs to work together, and the donors needs to facilitate and encourage NGOs to pursue their goals beyond the influence of the funders. The panel also talked about the transparency of data management, which is critical, and this is a little beyond the micro level data management, which may be sometimes biased. And they also talked about that how learning from each other is going to help, rather than saying that who knows more and who knows less. We also had another panel. I'll need few more minutes actually. There were 5 panels. I'm very sorry. So panel 4 actually also talked about the PRI CBO collaboration, which is actually a key pillar for moving towards LSDG, and the panel talked about the universalization of PRI CBO collaboration, which is right now, Kudumbashree has been playing an important role, and it is happening across the country. And the collaboration has seen that how women are playing leadership roles, not only in their Gram Panchayat development plans, but they are also coming up and leading the panchayats for different successful implementation of different successful projects. And the collaboration between these two institutions is critical. Panel 5, which is the last panel, but I think it was also one of the important agenda where they talked about the capacity building. They talked about how the PRI capacities need to be focused, and how through devolution of power, while reinforcing the principle of solidarity, can make the PRIs aware of their responsibilities. There has been long years where we have been talking about the capacity building, but now there is an existing stock of knowledge, human and social capital. How are we using that? Every year we are training thousands and lakhs of cadres, mentors. Where are they going? What are they doing? So how do we create that repository? How do we digitize them and make the learning platforms more e-learning platforms, and digitizing them so that people can access their knowledge? They may not always come and attend different training programs physically. The other part they focused on that strengthening policy coherence in LSDG literatures and emphasis on availability of disaggregated information across the local bodies can realize LSDGs. Bottom-up capacity building also refers to horizontal transfer of knowledge between the GPs. So we think that how the panchayats can also learn from each other, how can we build that kind of relationship. And we can also see that how the different technologies can be used by the panchayats to enhance their learning and understanding. So with this, thank you all, and I welcome you all and look forward to a meaningful discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharbani, for the detailed recap of the day 1. Hi, everyone. A very warm welcome from my side also. I'm Shikha, and with this, we are moving to our very first session of day 2, which is about policy implications and needs for achieving LSDG, and that will focus on the current policy landscape that exists and whether the same is facilitating the process of an inclusive bottom-up localization of SDGs. In this, we have 4 panel members, and I would like to invite them on stage, starting with Shri Amarjeet Sinha sir, who is a member in Public Enterprises Selection Board. Shri Charanjit Singh sir, Additional Secretary, Rural Livelihoods, Ministry of Rural Development in Government of India. Mr. R. Ilango, who is a social innovator, Kutumbakam village, Tamil Nadu. Mr. Anjani Kumar Singh, Senior Program Officer in BMGF India. The moderator of this session will be Mr. Naren, And before entering into the session, I would like to take few more minutes to introduce our esteemed speakers to all of you. Shri Sinha sir has 40 years of experience in government, largely in the rural and social sectors. He has had the unique distinction of having played a major role in designing Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, the National Rural Health Mission, and bringing about governance reforms in programs for rural areas, covering livelihoods, employment, housing, social security, skills, urban development, and road construction. At the state level, Sir served in the education and health sectors also. He was the former secretary to MORD, Government of India. His book was recently published called The Last Mile, Turning Public Policy Upside Down, and his contribution is bringing the real issues at grassroots and policies and designing the way forward. With this, I welcome Shri Sinha sir. Talking about Shri Charanjit Singh sir, Sir is an IFS officer of the 1990 batch. He has an extensive experience as a civil servant. As Additional Secretary, he is presently heading the Rural Livelihood Division in the Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India, with the responsibility to execute the vision of the government to strengthen community institutions under National Rural Livelihood Mission so that they are efficiently managed and attain self-reliance. He has published articles on land acquisition, land titling, land records, and rural development. He served as Joint Secretary, Rural Skills Division in the Ministry of Rural Development from 2018 to 2020. Currently, Sir is an Additional Secretary in Rural Livelihoods, Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India. Mr. Ilango, an energetic grassroots social innovator, hails from a marginalized community in Kutumbukam village about 30 km from Chennai city. He is determined to set new standards in rural development and build model villages for that. The impacts are scaled and measured to create ripple in the villages and moving towards Gram Swaraj. In 1998, he created a caste-neutral housing program inspiring the Samathuvapuram idea in Tamil Nadu government. He works on housing for villagers, got World Habitat Award in 2006. Mr. Anjani leads the foundation work in India related to community platforms and gender equality. He works very closely with the Ministry of Rural Development and several state rural livelihood missions and other development institutions around issues of women economic empowerment. He has more than 25 years of experience in designing, operationalizing large-scale rural development programs in the area of community institution building, rural livelihoods, rural enterprise promotion, community finance, agriculture value, chain development, monitoring and evaluation, and management of development programs. Last but not the least, Mr. Naren. He needs no introduction, but has been associated with Pradhan since 1989. The work done by Naren in the late 80s paved the way for the emergence of women's self-help group movement. He had been involved in a number of research and documentation efforts to build the knowledge. Later, he set up the National Resource Center for Rural Livelihoods that informed the design of the flagship programs such as Day NRLM and Manrega. He served as the Executive Director of Pradhan from 2017 to 2022. With this, I invite Naren on podium to start the session. And this session is of 1 hour. Yeah. Thank you.
1 hour? 10:40. So 11:40 is roughly we should. So thank you, Shikha. And welcome to everybody here on the second day of the Samagam 23. And welcome to the very esteemed and learned panel here. Sharbani has given us a good overview of what happened yesterday. So in a sense, even though you were not able to join yesterday, I'm sure you had a good input into what happened yesterday. So the policy session is the kind of a culmination of any discussion in that sense. It's the climax, I would say, and it's a very important session. Yesterday, as Sharbani reminded us, we looked at how the current policies related to localizing of sustainable development goals, where we are, how much we need to go further. So all that we looked at, and today we have to talk, at least in this session, we really need to talk in this session and surely the next. We have to look at how are we going ahead from here. What are the kind of new, out of the box, innovative thoughts that have to come. Therefore, this panel has a very important responsibility of throwing up ideas that are disruptive, innovative. The primary assumption here being, we're not very happy with where we are. 112 out of 166 in achievement of SDGs, with just about 7 years to go. I don't think we are in a very happy place. So how do we speed up the whole process? How do we push the needle much faster so that that requires more deliberate, speedier, faster steps. So what are those? Those are the ideas all of us are looking forward to in this session. So it's not about the existing policies that has been described very well yesterday. We had some very nice knowledge session, including all the other discussions. So we have really discussed what are the current policies, but we need to look at. And so this session is a bit about how the existing policies can be implemented better. Surely there are implementation hitches and problems, but it's more about more radical changes. How are we going to push the envelope further? Localizing SDGs, which the idea became popular about 5-8 years, more than 5 years back. It's a very radical idea. It is very fresh. It is, it's a different idea in a sense compared to the whole narrative of SDGs that we had. So the spirit of the localizing SDG is disruption through devolution. So how do we make it more disruptive? How do we actually make it more bolder? And there were some disruptive voices yesterday here as well in the hall, where we spoke about how do we devolve more resources? How do we engineer more convergence? How do we do this in a manner where we trust the communities more, not load them with data and all kinds of structures and frameworks? Let them be, trust them. Devolve money, give them money, and let them decide what are their priorities. So there were some very interesting discussions yesterday. We need to further. So currently there is a very good infrastructure there in terms of the Panchayat Raj institutions which are there. We have a very strong set of community-based organizations, the self-help groups which are there under the NRLM. So this PRI CBO convergence is something we really talked about. So how do we make it stronger? Like Sharda said yesterday, it's not just the PRI CBOs that need to converge. The government needs to come in very strongly and very supportively. The government needs to facilitate this convergence. So we spoke yesterday about PRI, CBO, the government and the markets. How do all these multiple players work together, and how do we leverage this, this synergy to speed up the process of localizing the SDG process? So we are really looking forward to a couple of out-of-the-box disruptive ideas from this panel. So each of you are in your own vantage, doing this at your own levels. So each of you have 10 minutes each to start with, and then we'll give you more time if required, and if they sitting there allow us. So I'll start off. I will request Mr. Ilango to start. He's been a practitioner. We all heard about his biodata. He's the one who's innovated things at his own level in his panchayat as the mukhya in that panchayat. He's experienced the weight and also the facilitation of the policies. He's experienced everything in spite of or because of the support and the policies. He has innovated. He has done a lot of innovations at your own levels. So could you reflect on what facilitated your working as a Sarpanch and subsequently the various things that you've done on tracking, etc. And what would you say today to the current policy infrastructure, and what are your suggestions? 10 minutes to go. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I place my sincere thanks for giving this opportunity. As it is heard, I am the witness what was 73rd Amendment, how it was passed, then how Kerala adopted, how Karnataka adopted, how West Bengal adopted, and how other states have adopted, and what is the potential of panchayats. Just to make a model to experiment myself, I quit my job in 1996 when the panchayat elections were declared in Tamil Nadu first time after 73rd Amendment, then became the Sarpanch of the village, Then the constitution is very clear. Panchayat itself is a government. It's a local self-government. Again, it's not a government. It's a self-government. Because there is a possibility of self. Then I try to make that village as a model. We prepared constitutionally. Panchayat has to prepare a plan for 5 years. We prepared a 5-year plan. All the 50 years felt need of the village was drafted, approved by the people, participated by the people, and in phase by phase, we started this in 1996. In 2001, this village became a model. In 2001 to 2006, further added, it became a model for the country, variety of things, A to Z development. So in that experiment, one is my own experiment in my own village with my own community, interestingly with a system. It's a constitutional system. So that's why what I'm trying to emphasize here, in Kerala, 2 terms, in 1995 to 2001 or 2000 or 2000 to 2006, 2 terms finished. The whole panchayat system in Kerala has grown to the level that they are the government, they are the local self-government. It is not Kutumbakam Panchayat, it's Kutumbakam local self-government in the case of Kerala. Go to Kerala, it's like government of India, like that every village. Kannadi, local self-government. That's the name of the Panchayat system. And it is not only that feeling of pride that something, then everything is addressed. Panchayat is a government, it's a local self-government. It's happening. Except Kerala, it's not happening in other places. Here and there, some small things are happening. Again, the worrisome is one village in one district, one state, or 10 villages in one state. Like that, all along, out of 2,73,000 or mentioned panchayats, even if it is 1% is successful, we should have at least 2,500 outstanding model panchayats. Not even 1%. You catch up one Ilango talk for 10 years in Tamil Nadu, catch up other A in West Bengal, talk for 10 years when something it's really ironical, I can say that. Something wrong, but we have to work for that. Then, when I started implementing everything, A to Z development, variety of technologies have been demonstrated. Yes, technologies are very much available, people-friendly, appropriated technologies are very much available in variety of institutions, right from IITs, CSIR, laboratories, and so many things. They have been developed for keeping people in mind, but they have not reached the people. That's again the question. So how the panchayat can work as a bridge between the institutions and the community. So that's a need of the hour, and that was addressed in my model. So after achieving A, B, C, infrastructure, road, drainage, housing, then the real issue in this, burning issue in this country is the caste. We started a program called Samatopuram. That was historical one. After that, nowhere in the country or nowhere in the world it was started. We constructed 100 twin houses, that is 50 twin houses for 100 families. Out of that, each house, one side a so-called Dalit family, other side a Brahmin family. One side the Dalit family, other side a Naidu family. And they have been chosen from the same village by the same Gram Sabha. This could be happening in a town where you call some 40 Dalit families and again other people to come to live together. Here, in presence of your eyes, oh, he is a Dalit family and he is a Naidu family. I am a Naidu or I am a Brahmin, but I am a poor man. I am also living in a rental house. Why can't I come and live here? Then it was thrashed out in the Gram Sabha. Then we made that as a model. After seeing that, the then Chief Minister Karunanidhi made that as a scheme called Samatopuram. He promoted more than 235 Samatopurams in Tamil Nadu. While doing that, then we demonstrated variety of building models, something like this. So in this experiment, and I was really looking for systematic solutions. But now, thanks to SDG, thanks to UN or whomever done, it's a beautifully designed system. Goal number 1 to goal number 17. All the goals are done means the world is done. So that's a beautiful goal. But again, how can you take it to the community? That's again the question. So that's why when I was invited for this, they asked me, what are you doing with SDG? Now I feel the SDG goal number 1, no hunger. Goal number 2, food security, that is no hunger. Goal number 1 is the no poverty. Goal number 3, then good education. Goal number 4, something like this. This is exactly thing a panchayat can do. Because in a panchayat, Tamil Nadu, except Kerala, other parts of the country, the panchayats are having 500 houses, 700 households, 1,300 households. In Tamil Nadu, average 700 to 1,000 households are one panchayat. And the sarpanches or the ward members, they all know every family. Because at the time of election, they go there and beg vote with all the 1,000 families in all the models. It may be their own relative way, it may be their own caste way, it may be their own giving some money and all these things. They know all the 1,100 families, every panchayat leader knows it. So that's why what I'm trying now, go with these goals. Goal number 1, no poverty. So it's a complicated goal. But a sarpanch with a ward member, they can go there, say there is a fish vendor, a small poor family living in a small hut. Sit with the family, ask, can I declare your family is out of poverty? Then immediately the family reacts, are you joking? Then why not? Then what is the problem? Then what is the poverty you mean? The poverty of that fish vendor is different. The teacher's poverty is different. The family, the landlord's poverty is different. Then sit with family and make them to understand what is their poverty and how to come out, how to bring them out of poverty. What is their contribution? That fish vendor, how she is going to contribute. That husband, how she is going to contribute. The children, how they are going to contribute. Elders, how they are going to contribute. Panchayat, how it is going to contribute. How we are going to tap the government schemes. All these things we call SDG calendar. We are printing out a SDG calendar. Page number 1, no poverty, family, Saroja, husband, everything is there. And it's a complicated goal. It's a 5-year goal. So actually 60 boxes we designed. Each box number 1, open a RD. Box number 2, open a something. Then all 60 months calendar boxes we design and we track it. The family is tracking, panchayat is tracking, volunteers are tracking, government is also made to track it. We call SDG tracker. That's only the complicated goal. Second one is hunger, maybe a 6 months goal. Third one, good education, 2 months goal. Fourth, gender, again 6 month goal. Like that, we fix boxes and we track it. If we sincerely track it for next 5 years, I'm sure even the goal number 1, complicated goal like poverty eradication from that family is possible. And we are doing it, and I'm running pillar to post in the state, catching hold of good panchayats. Again with Mission Samruti, then we are doing a cluster panchayats, like 6 or 7 panchayat as a cluster we are trying to do. Again, same way across the state, I've been working with variety of institutions. Right now I'm working with about 700 panchayats out of 12,350 panchayats in Tamil Nadu. And I'm sure this SDG goal is a real tool available. In 5 years' time, I'm having a target of, or we are running a target of 60,000 families in at least 60 panchayats. So that's the way we are going, and variety of things. Again, the technology, I'm a working scientist. Yeah, I'm finishing. I'm a working scientist. I'm an expert in appropriating technologies. Right now, we have got more than 55 appropriated technologies. Within that, except Rajasthan, the desert side, then all the villages, they are falling within this 51 or 55 technologies. Within that, we'll solve all the problems. Maybe in 1 year time, 2 year time, keeping SDG as a tracker, and we will achieve a lot. And this is what I want to share. And the greatest concern is, please forget the past. Today onwards, let us work. In 2 years' time or in 5 years' time, the whole of the country, the panchayats should work as a system in the village, not like a scheme, like a module 1, module 2, module 3. Still you are every 5-year modules, 5-year modules, not parliament modules. Can you give a training for parliamentarians? Can you give a training for state assemblies? Like that, this panchayat is also a system available. Make it as a system. And if we sit together sincerely, in 5 years' time, there is a possibility of catching hold of the panchayats. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Elango. I think we want to hear much more from you. So maybe we'll have more time after, maybe in the second round. So I just talked about disruptive ideas, and he himself is disruption. So I don't know what else can I say about he and his work. But some very interesting ideas. I mean, if you trust the panchayat, if you trust the ward and the committee and the sarpanch, I think they can do really disruptive wonders. So I won't say anything further. We'll give you more time after. So next I will invite, no, Mr. Sir, I want to invite Mr. Singh. So I want to invite Mr. Singh because he has to leave also, he said. Mr. Sinhaji, he has to, he's got a meeting to go to. So he has got a meeting, so I think I will invite Mr. Singh. Again, as the additional secretary, I would request you, I mean, I actually wanted you to come in the end to really summarize everything and say what you're going to do. But nevertheless, you heard enough and you got the sense of what is happening here. So how do you think is the way ahead in terms of policies and new ideas?
Thank you, Naren. And first of all, I would like to thank Pradhan and the Axis Bank Foundation also that for giving me this opportunity and share some of my ideas. And it's a great opportunity to sit with Amarjit Sinha sir only. So to rub shoulders with him is a great thing. So I learned a lot from him. So I will just share some of my thoughts. And second, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to speak after Elango. Because that has been my concern always, that we should learn from the ground. We should not think that we know all things. And sometimes I feel that the people at the village level, they know much more than us also. How do we take their knowledge? That is a big challenge for us. And I'm not saying this just for the heck of saying. I will just give you one example that I learned during my posting in Sivni district. Sivni is in between Jabalpur and Nagpur, if you have some idea of Madhya Pradesh. And I love to go to the villages, and I think there the real knowledge lies. So I learned from that there is one village in Sivni district. They are doing this collection of sitafal or sharifa or custard apple. So it's a very sweet fruit, but it's perishable also. It perishes very fast. So I learned that they have auctioned the sitafal in that area for around 2.5 lakhs. Collectively they did. So I thought it's a very good idea if they can earn money like this. So why not go to that village and learn about it, how they are functioning. So I went to that village. So I interacted with the community also, that how you are doing. They said, sir, we decided collectively that we will dispose of this sharifa or sitafal and we will auction it, and we publicized it in the newspaper also, on the WhatsApp group also. We did all this. I think it's a very good idea. Sir, they said, you should come to the forest also and see how we are doing it. I said, okay, I will go with you also to the forest. So we went to that the area where they did the auction. So now I went around and I could observe that on every tree they have left 5 to 10 sharifa. Now I said, why you have left? And you said that the contractor has collected all the sharifa and he has gone away also. Then why you have left this 5 to 10 on each tree? They said, sir, in our contract, we have mentioned that the contractor needs to leave such a number of sharifa on each tree. Now I said, why? Why did you leave this? Sir, they said the birds also need it. And I said, okay. And they said, sir, the birds will eat and then they will disperse the seed also. So the more sharifa will come in the future. So I have been a forest officer, but nobody taught me these things. So this is the knowledge. So people are much more knowledgeable than us. So we need to take the knowledge from the field. So that is my submission to all my colleagues, that they should listen to the voices from the field. There are so many good voices that we will learn a lot from that. And the second thing I want to say is that the capacity building of the people is very important. We don't need to give the fish to the people every day, just teach them how to catch the fish, and then they will be on their own and they can do anything in life. And that has been the beauty of the NRLM. We are doing the capacity building in a very structured way. We have got around 119 national resource person, then we have got around 2,100 state resource person, then we have got this community resource persons at the village level who stay in the village and who do the hand holding of the villagers. So that is the beauty of the NRLM. So that's how we function it. So that is the strength I think we need to leverage it properly. And that is the support we need from civil society organizations also, because they are the boots on the ground. The government can do only up to a certain extent. But if we want to reach such a humongous number of, like our Secretary Sir must have mentioned yesterday, of 10 crore households. 10 crore households means around 40 to 50 crore people. So it's a much larger than the population of the many countries also. For that we need the boots on the ground. So that is my expectation from the civil society organization, how we can work together. And we have seen so many successful models, like Pradhan is working with us in many states. So these are the successful models that needs to be replicated. And as I mentioned in the beginning also, that we need to teach the people how to do the fishing. But can we develop some sort of a portal? I was discussing with Pradhan, and that has been my idea, and constantly discussing with them. Why can't we have wiki livelihoods? Why can't we provide different sorts of livelihood models on the portal? Like I want to learn about something in regarding how to collect honey. So can't I learn in Odia or Kannada or Tamil, and I can go to just to that portal and select specific thing and specific language? Can't there be some videos or some modules available on that site? So that I can learn at my own pace. So that I think we need to work upon that. And I'm quite happy to share that, sir, we have made some beginning with the GIZ regarding fisheries. We have developed a number of modules, not only the fishes, only how the pearl culture, then the crab culture, everything, the seaweed, how to grow the seaweed, then how to do the multiple livelihoods, like the paddy can be done with the poultry, and then the fishery can be associated. So there are so many modules available in the country. So why can't we have a portal of these things? So with GIZ, we have done one beginning. So I think that can be one idea which needs to be explored and shared with the people, so that they can learn more about that. And the next thing I want to focus on is the technology. I think technology is a great equalizer. So you can go to any village, you can see the people looking at the mobile. So we can provide the knowledge straight away through that also. Why I'm saying this? Sir, I was in Odisha just last week only, and I went to discuss with the performance of the FPOs. I'm quite happy to share this, sir. They had got 45 FPOs, and 45 FPOs have been onboarded on the eNAM portal. And all the produce has been sold through that portal only, eNAM. So that is the technology. So how the technology can be leveraged, it's a great opportunity for us, but we need to handhold our people and guide them. I think a lot of action can be taken in this regard also. So, and just one more thing I want to focus on, that is the convergence. Convergence is also very important. There are many schemes of the government, but sometimes I think somebody is working in one direction, somebody is working in separate direction. But if we work together, I think a lot of difference can be made. I will just give you one example that why I'm saying this. So you must be knowing about this Pashu Sakhis. So those are the community resource persons. We train them in this, know how to look after the animals, etc. So we do the training. So we had a discussion with the animal husbandry department. So they don't have such a large number of extension workers in the ground. So why? So we decided to work together. So we exchanged our notes also. We exchanged the training modules also. Then we decided that we have a 42 days module for the Pashu Sakhis. They said we want to impart them 16 days more training. We said okay. And then they will certify them as A-HELP. That is the accredited agent for health and extension and livelihood production. So now our Pashu Sakhis are being recognized by the animal husbandry department, and they are going to provide the various services of the animal husbandry department in the field. So they want that we need 2 lakh such extension workers. We have got around 70,000. First we are training them, and then the rest of the community resource persons also we will select and train them, and then we will work with them. So that is the potential of this convergence between 2 departments. So, and we have mapped each and every Pashu Sakhi and village also, that where the Pashu Sakhi is needed, where we need to train more Pashu Sakhis. So, and the 4th thing I want to say is in connection with this convergence is the political buy-in. When the politicians are also on the board, then it creates such a momentum, it becomes a headache for us also. Now every state, every chief minister wants to launch the A-HELP program. So every state, whether Uttarakhand or whether Gujarat, every chief minister is launching this program. So if we get so much forces working together, I think then it can create a huge impact. So that is I think we need to look at such modules, how we can work together and how we can associate everybody with us. Then there is going to be win-win situation. So I wouldn't take much time. I will just give one more idea. So that is we have done a lot of work with the SHGs, as our secretary must have mentioned yesterday also. We have done around 10 crore SHGs. Financial inclusion, we have reached 7.5 lakh crore. So great things have been done. So that stage is over. Now we need to move to the next stage. That is the SHG bank linkage is good. Now some of the individual SHG members, they want to move ahead. They are not happy with 75,000 or 1 lakh rupees from the bank linkage. They want to take a loan of 5 lakh rupees, 10 lakh rupees, and some of them want 25 lakh rupees also. They want to move to the next stage because they want to establish their own entrepreneurship, and then they want to work on that. And as per our estimates, there are 1 crore women who want the help in this regard. So how we help them? We are already working with some banks like State Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, etc., that how we can have specific products for our such SHG member, how we can provide help to them. So my question to this August gathering will be that how you can provide the hand holding to such SHG member. They require a higher level of mentorship, higher level of hand holding, higher level of business enterprises need to be supported. So that is my question. I will leave you with this question. Just think about this. But I think there is a great opportunity and the expectations are quite high from us. People want to move ahead in life. And just I will, sir, give you one more example that will put the things in context also. Why I am saying that the expectations are also very high and why are the people want to move ahead in life. Sir, last year, around in the beginning of the last year, there were local body elections in Madhya Pradesh. And I'm quite happy to say that there are 17,000 of SHG women have been elected at various levels, Gram Panchayat, Janpad Panchayat and Jila Panchayats. So they want to move ahead. And I got the opportunity to meet such woman who was the member of the Jila Panchayat. And I said, how did you got elected? Sir, she said, I want to do more for the community. And all the SHG members, they decided we will elect you unanimously. Nobody is going to stand opposite you also. And sir, I am quite hopeful that in the 15-20 years, some SHG member is going to be the chief minister also, the way they are moving ahead. Thank you very much. These are some of my...
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Thank you for the very important inputs. You talked about the trust, the wisdom and the knowledge of the community. You talked about capacity building, localizing, learning, technology. So since we will not have you again, because you need to leave, maybe if any questions are there, I think we can quickly take a question for him. I mean, if the other panelists are okay, because he needs to step out, yeah. And so one question would be, you talked about convergence. So, how do we actually speeden up or make this convergence far more, let's say, more widespread? Because the issue is about actually making more resources available to the panchayat so that they can, take a call on what they want to do and exercise their, wisdom. But how do we make it happen? One is devolution of this finance commission money. Can we increase that? Is there any possibility of those things happening? How do we also facilitate convergence? So is there any additional thoughts on that?
Certainly, convergence is very important, and I think we need to work both ways, from the ground level also and from at the policy level also. Ground level, if there is a strong demand, I think then there will be convergence. Nobody can stop it. I feel that way. And at the policy level also, I think we need to take the initiative. And I'm happy to say that Sir was, when in the advisor to the Prime Minister, he took some meetings also for convergence. So that also pushes the things, because if there is a pressure from the above also and from the pressure from below also, from both sides, only then the things are going to work. And we need to devise the innovative models also, how we can ensure the convergence. Like I mentioned about the A-help. So it was so many meetings we took place. Somehow there was the frequency matched between the Ministry of RD and the animal husbandry that we could do so much. So that is the way I think.
Thank you. Anybody has any question quickly? Yeah, go ahead, Sonali.
Yeah, you talked about the political buy-in, and that is very critical. But you have to give us some tools of what is this, how does this work, and for practitioners like us, what do we do to do that?
No, it's not a simple tool that for every initiative we need to work around it and how we can ensure. So these are not easy things. These are not simple things. They are complicated things, but these needs to be addressed. I think we need to sit together, and those who are, I think if we have got the passion in our hearts, I think we can find some solution.
So you have to work with you're saying the upper tiers like MLAs, MPs also, not just the panchayats at the village level. Is
No.
that what you are suggesting also?
Yes, at all levels we need to work.
Thank you. So with that, I think we'll move. Thank you, Mr. Singh. It was a pleasure having you here. Thank you. So you want to quickly felicitate him with the Smriti Chinna or something? Thank you. Yeah. Can I request Anjani to go next, sir? So Anjani, you are also in a very interesting vantage position as a person who holds the resources. And in your current role in the BMGF as well as in your earlier role in the World Bank also, you've been facilitating this whole process of promotion of the community base, strengthening the community, the CBOs, etc., etc. So as a person who has been involved in and currently involved in actually funding the new ideas, funding the thinking processes, so what is your position on this as to where the localizing SDG idea is today? And what would your foundation would like to support further?
No, thank you, Naren. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much to the Pradhan for inviting me. I mean, I could, as a ex-Pradhanite, I could meet some of my old colleagues after like decades. So thank you for inviting and giving me that opportunity. Now, and as you mentioned, I've been associated in different role with some of these work and all, and I would limit my thinking and sharing in a practice space rather than the policy space. I will leave the policy space to Amajit Sinha Saab. And I'll come to the foundation a little later. But I do see that and I have not worked, to be very honest, on the panchayat side much, but certainly on the SAG side, and I've worked quite a lot, starting from my old Pradhan days to Jivika days to MORD, World Bank, and now with the Gates Foundation as well. So my association have been quite long. And it was lovely to hear what Ilango Sahab mentioned. I think there is one common word which I see, the self. I see when it comes to any development outcome at the grassroots level, I think India is fortunate that we have two powerful institutions. One is the Panchayati Raj institutions, and one is what we call it, the whole network of the self-help group. And the word self is common in both self-help groups and local self-government. And if we, and I don't know whether it's just a coincidence or it has a much larger meaning. I do personally see that it does have a much larger meaning. And, and the way the SAG movement has grown in India, I think, again, I feel there is a lot that, the panchayat can also learn quite a lot from this whole, self-help group movements in India. And I have noted some of the points I would like to share before I get into, the foundations part of it. One which I feel is super important is when we talk about localizing of this, the SDGs, the whole simplification of SDG. I don't know, when someone goes and talks to the panchayat, what does this SDG mean to them? I mean, if you go to self-help group, and just now the Additional Secretary Saab mentioned, that there are almost 100 million women who are part of this network. If you go and ask, all 100 million women, who are part of the SAG, what is Panch Sutra? I would give you with guarantee that at least 70, 80 million women would very clearly articulate what does the Panch Sutra mean. And I feel that level of simplification has really helped this movement to grow. And if I draw a similar parallel, I think we need to have a similar kind of a simplification that what does the SDG mean for a panchayat? So that level of, and when we say simplification, it's also, the whole contextualization. It's also localization of data. I mean, again, and I would request when Amajit sir, he would talk about. I mean, he had started the whole mission Antyodaya, where the localization of the data is very, very important, and that's exactly, I think, in some of this, the studies briefing, it also came up that we have a data for the, for large number of SDGs at the national level, state level, but do we have those data available at the panchayat level? So that panchayat can also do the whole planning process. We expect that, okay, they will get involved on the planning process, but, do we expect that that planning process should be best out of a hardcore data so that they clearly see that, okay, this is where we were and this is where we are now. So I think the whole localization of data, the simplification, the contextualization, I would also, as a development practitioner, it feels that, okay, SDG is decided somewhere and panchayat has to just follow that and make sure that, we fulfill that. Or, they have a flexibility and they need to decide what does the SDG mean for them and all. So all these are, I would say, as equally important, and this needs to be SSG movement. When SSG movement started, I mean, they have a full flexibility whether they want to meet on Monday, whether they want to meet on Tuesday, whether we want to meet in day, during night, whether they want to save 2 rupees or 10 rupees or 100 rupees. All these flexibilities were provided to them, and that's the reason the whole ownership that we see in the SSG movement, probably some of these things could be easily, done on the panchayat side. The second point which I want to highlight is, which is again, I'm drawing the whole parallel between the whole saturation approach. The region, and especially when the government got into the promotion of, and SRLMs were set up and got into this promotion of self-help group, they made sure that whichever village is entered, 80%, 90% of the all eligible households are part of the SSG, network. And that brought a completely different kind of ecosystem than, you are sprinkling SSG and promoting, one group here, another group there, and like that. So, and if I draw a similar parallel, I would say, if panchayat takes one goal and makes sure that no one is left behind under that goal. At least that goal is fully saturated and no one left behind, and panchayat can be, announce that, okay, we have achieved that goal. I think this whole, the reason that is important, that everyone requires the whole sense of achievement and sense of motivation. If panchayat, get that sense of achievement and sense of motivation by achieving that one goal, I'm sure, they'll get energy to achieve the second and third and fourth goals and all. So from that point of view, I feel it's important that, that saturation, which is a very cardinal principle of the SSG movement, has a lot to, do from, on the panchayat side as well. I think, the third point, again, and nowadays, this is a, environment of women-led development. Every day I hear some new things. I mean, just few days back, I read that, one of the banks have set up the, all women bank branch. I also read sometime back, all women factory. So, the whole factory is run and managed by, women. So I'm wondering, whether, and also in the yesterday's session, it came out very clearly that one goal where we are lagging behind and panchayats are not prioritizing, I think it's a gender-related goal, and none other than the previous secretary probably, mentioned that. And again, I don't have an answer, but I do feel that can it be, all women panchayat? And when I say all women panchayat, means both the function, I mean, the panchayat leader, ward member, sarpanch, to the panchayat sevak, all the functionaries are also, women. I'm not sure whether that makes a difference or not, but certainly we have seen in the SSG ecosystem it has made difference. Also, we have seen, and there are documented evidence that how women participation in the panchayat through these reservation mechanism and all has really changed the nature and characteristic of these panchayat and all. My last point would be, I think a lot of goes into this panchayat planning process, and then this whole village it's called Village Prosperity and Resilience Plan, VPRP, which is done at the SSG network, and then that gets into, integrated into the whole GPDP framework. I think we talk about, integrating some of these things, and how to use the 14-15 Finance Commission's resources, or the other resources. But how these plans should also be critical for the other line department is equally important. That whatever the priority plan that through BPRP process and GPDP process are decided, it becomes a mandatory for the other line department also to take into account of following those plans and not having a parallel priorities plans and all. I think that will further help this achieving, the SDG at a very local level. My final 2 points, one is, I think, the foundation, how foundation is engaged in. We, again, as a foundation, we have decided to work very closely with the government, and, and we know for sure that whatever the foundation investment is, it's a very minuscule, tiny amount of what government invests in all the development process and all. So we try to make sure that whatever the small amount that we invest should be a catalytic, to the larger government resources, which is going for these developmental outcomes and all. So we have been working in Bihar in a very small way, where women-led panchayats are basically supported through the training and capacity build program, so that they get the voice and agency, especially the first-time elected leaders, so that they understand this whole panchayat systems, and they get voice and agencies to deliver much better on that. We have been also partnering with the Ministry of Rural Development in this whole BPRP and GPDP planning process, and how to help and expedite that planning process. My only submission there would be that how that planning process should not just remain a kind of a mechanical exercise, but becomes a truly empowering process and all. Again, if I go back to my, yes, I'll wind it up in 1 minute. I again go back to my Pradhan days, and the whole Pradhan's recruitment process. I think it was such a fantastic process, where if anyone who is going through that recruitment process, and when they used to come out, they were not thinking about whether I will get selected and I will not get selected. But everyone was, used to say that I have enjoyed the process. Where I don't care whether I'll get selected or not, but the process itself was so empowering. It was so involving, that people feel excited about it. I would say this: when all these panchayat planning processes are happening, I think that is the sense the community should get, both the SAG member and the panchayat leader, that this planning process itself has been empowering and enough. Yes, outcome is important. We need to focus on the outcome, but the process is equally important, and that process should be empowering enough. I think my last point, being an international being part of an international organization, I do get opportunity to work in different places. Especially I've been working in some of those African countries, especially in Nigeria and Kenya, which are the foundation priority states and all. And I don't know, Naren, and if you forgive me, I think I was studying not in the workshop, and I don't know all those ranking that was presented. But I can share for sure, and I can take the advantage of my ignorance, that I don't agree with you in terms of we are not at a better place. When I look at the larger global, developmental context, I feel India is much better, better place. I was talking to Achintya before this event and all, and when I go to those countries, I don't see that. The way India as a country, both in the government program as well as in the various civil society initiative, we have put the community, panchayat, women as the central focus of our whole developmental thinking. I don't see that happening in all those other countries and all. So I would say, I think that gives me a lot of confidence that we are at a much better place, rather than the rest of the world and all. And credit goes to both governments, both governments, civil society organizations, as well as, even to the private sector, who have supported all these initiatives and all. So thank you so much. I'm much more hopeful.
Thank you so much, Anjani. Yeah, surely we are in a very good place, in the sense, yeah. But the question is, how do we further speed it up, etc., etc. But you made some very important points, and I think the foundation supporting the women panchayat and investing in that community-based processes of VPRP and GPDP, I think that is very, very powerful and very, important for this whole process of localizing the SDGs. So we move on. We are also now, so I've reserved the best for the last. Yeah. No, in a sense, we are very fortunate that we have Mr. Amajit Sinha in our panel here, a person who has been everywhere in policy, from the head of the ministry, the secretariat of the ministry to the Prime Minister's office, and now also very involved in very active policy advising, and very worried and concerned about the last mile, as it were. And that was his last book also, the book that you wrote on last mile, the strengthening the last mile. And that's not the last book, but the last book he wrote. That's a very good way of saying it, Ved. Yeah, there's one more already coming out, I know. Yeah, so therefore localizing SDGs is also about the last mile. So I think I don't need to further say what you want to say. Yeah.
Thank you. I think after the three outstanding interventions, there's very little to be said. But what I'll try and do is to put together in a frame. And Naren made the mistake of telling me yesterday when he sent the note that he wanted to understand the larger picture as well, the policy and how it fits in. It's important because, I think good ideas on how they get grounded into large systems. It's a bit like the Wipro ad, that, what does the Wipro say? The Wipro's ad is about actually, I'll just forgetting the phrase. It's about, internalizing a change process. They call it, abhi yaad aa jayega, I'll just share that. Bhulne laga hu abhi. So, no, any good initiative, the first thing which goes into a policy maker's mind is how do you take it to scale? And that's how we ruin it many a time. But it's important to understand that. Why it is important to understand that? Applying thought. Applying thought is the word that Wipro uses. How do you apply thought into large systems? I think I need not go into the history of it, but decentralization was not an uncontested domain. Even at the time of independence and thereafter, Gandhi and Ambedkar, their thought process was different on the issue of decentralization for very valid reasons. Both had very valid reasons. Ambedkar saw in promotion of decentralization a continuance of the social hierarchies that had informed rural life in India. Gandhi thought of it as a collectives resolving problems and moving on. This informed a lot of our thought processes subsequently. I am alluding to that because a lot of the positive discrimination, a lot of the transformations thereafter have changed those relationships, and we have reached a stage where there is a consensus in society that it may well be a good idea to decentralize. Now again, when we are talking in 2023, we must have more evidence with us for whatever we say. And the good thing about talking in 2023, you have a lot of evidence for all that we have been saying from the heart. We can say it with the head as well. On decentralization, for example, the Niti Aayog has come up with a 2023 report on multidimensional poverty. Kerala, 0.55% persons in multidimensional poverty. Tamil Nadu, 2.2% persons in multidimensional poverty. Bihar, 33%. And so on. Now, clearly the message is on the wall. Which is the state which has done most on decentralization and local self-governments, as was rightly pointed out by Ilango. The self is important there. Clearly, it delivers. It's not that it doesn't deliver. Why does it deliver? Now, that's the other evidence question. We've had schools of economists, somebody saying ki have growth and everything else will trickle down, there will be well-being thereafter. Others saying, no, do human development, then other things will happen. A third school saying, no. Just remove the asset deficits of the poor and they will be able to make better use of public services. Give them a house, give them a bank account, give them a collective of women's collective, give them electricity, give them a toilet at home and so on. If these asset deficits are removed, their abilities to access public services will improve. Now, why we are at a good point, the point that Anjani mentioned, I can see a lot of positives in a frame of what I call a glass half full. Sudipto Mandal, when he revisited Palamu, the villages that he had done studies in 44 years ago, he came back with the same conclusion. Some of you may have read it in the Mint, where he said it seemed like a glass half full, because I did not see the kind of chronic poverty that I had seen 44 years ago. But having said that, most people had just crossed the border. They may have moved up from chronic poverty, but most of them were bunched just there. And any adverse event, like the COVID, like so many things else, could clearly get them, many of them, back into poverty again. Now, this being the case, what is it that is positive that we need to build on? The social capital of women's collectives. 100 million is not a small number. This scale, we could never have visualized 100,000 banking correspondent from among the bank Sakhis. Now, this network of human resources is there at the field level. The PRI SHG framework, with all its challenges in many states, they seem to be beginning to stabilize, with more leaders from SHGs getting members of panchayats. There are professionals, be it Buddha Fellows, be it Pradhan Fellows, be it many other organizations across the country, quite a large number of young, well-educated individuals willing to work as a professional to transform lives and livelihoods of the deprived on scale. And of course, the GPDP process, yes, it's a routinized thing. We tried to push it very strongly. But when you try to push it after understanding what the territory is and not the map, then you will think differently. One small how small changes matter, not for any other thing, it needs to be highlighted. We had all got into our minds nationally, political leaders, administrators, everybody, 2 अक्टूबर को ग्राम सभा होना है. 5 ग्राम पंचायत पर एक पंचायत सेक्रेटरी है, तो 5 जगह ग्राम सभा एक दिन कैसे कर पाएगा वो? Did we think of this? Now, I think these are the fundamental questions to be asked. Unless and until, now when the Sabki Yojana, Sabka Vikas GPDP exercise, 2nd October to end December, began from 2017 systematically, we had insisted कि आप डेट पहले डिस्प्ले करो और अलग अलग दिन मीटिंग करो, सेम डे करने की जरूरत नहीं. और जितने ये 29 ट्रांसफर्ड सेक्टर्स हैं, उनका फ्रंटलाइन वर्कर शुड बी देयर इन दैट ग्राम सभा. वी स्टार्टेड मॉनिटरिंग एंड ट्रैकिंग इट. इट बिगैन विथ 2 or 3 ऑफ देम कमिंग फॉर द मीटिंग. आरडी वाले, पंचायत वाले आ गए, बाकी नहीं आए. अब कई राज्यों में वो संख्या बढ़ के 8, 10, 12 तक आ जा रहे हैं. I think that's fundamental to this transformation, that this disruption that we are talking about. The day GPDPs have full representation of the frontline workers of the concerned line ministries whose responsibilities rest with panchayats, there will be change. The other point is about decentralization or a policy. केवल बोलने से तो होता नहीं है. Where are the resources? Have we given untied resources at the institution level? I recall again my association with the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, the National Rural Health Mission, and then the Rural Development Programs. We tried our level best even in the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan for education to give untied grants for teachers and schools, to make it mandatory that the school buildings will come up in a partnership of the village education committee, Gram Panchayat, and the headmaster of the school, essentially trying to see what more activities could happen at the school level. In the National Rural Health Mission, every sub-center got untied grants every year. PHCs got untied grants, so that no doctor at a PHC could tell you, हमने सफाई नहीं कराया क्योंकि पैसे नहीं है. There were monies available with all of them. Now, I think it's an important lesson in decentralization. Your cutting edge institutions should display and reflect the change. That will only happen if you provide financial resources at that level. आप स्कूल में हेल्थ फैसिलिटी में पैसे नहीं दोगे, आप बोलोगे कि हम तो फाइनेंस कमीशन ने कहा डिसेंट्रलाइज कर रहे हैं. इफ योर वेज ऑफ स्पेंडिंग रिमेन द सेम, देन नो चेंज विल हैपन. So decentralization is always about that last mile of flexibility and availability of resources to do what is the right thing. Now, for example, nutrition. Now, again, the evidence with regard to human development indicators is very clearly that education, health, nutrition, livelihood, skills, they do not lend themselves to narrow departmentalism. It is not one ICDS program which will transform under nutrition. It is not one school program which will transform schools. All of them have so many influences and they are so interconnected that you need a horizontal platform very close to the community. You need a horizontal platform within the umbrella of local governments to actually do these things together. If you look at the evidence, why do states which decentralize more effectively perform better than other states on many social indicators? One of the reasons is that they look at all these programs together. Example of Sikkim. Sikkim recorded a 8-point decline in stunting between the NFHS 4 and NFHS 5. How did it come about? It came about because they had the women's collective and the local village committees which were very active. It came about because they resolved their problems through decentralized local action. Many of you will be quite surprised to know that the prime resource which transformed villages in Sikkim is MGNREGS. They didn't have clean water in their villages. What have they done? They have used MGNREGS funds to do spring shed development. They have brought clean water and stored it in the village, connected every household with it. Well before the Jal Jeevan mission, 2 states, Sikkim and Gujarat, was providing piped water to more than 70% households. The second thing, they used the MGNREGA individual beneficiary scheme to give a dairy shed to every rural family in Sikkim. Wherever you go, you will find they've got the dairy shed with the MGNREGS funds. Their entire organic farming begins from there. The cow dung, the cow urine, sustainable biofertilizers prepared and made use of. The institutions, primary sub-health center, every village having a health sub-center. Schools accountable to local village committees. When you put all this together, there was no rocket science, but that is what results in the decline of stunting by 8 points. Very few parts of the world would have reported an 8% reduction in stunting in a period of 6 years. So it's possible. Unless you do these things together, it is not possible. Just narrow departmentalism is not going to work there. The issue that comes up, and again, some people say Tamil Nadu has not done enough for panchayats, but Tamil Nadu has a lot of people like Mr. Ilango here. Very interestingly, political parties had a consensus, even if it is not the panchayat, even if other levels are stronger, unlike Kerala, the village poverty reduction committee, which Tamil Nadu worked with, and again across political parties, political buy-in was a question that was asked little while ago. Across political parties, the village poverty reduction committee was accepted as a good institution. What does it have? It has representation of the poorest communities. It has representation of women. It has representation of vulnerable social groups. And they decide whom the benefit should go to in a particular program. The processes of participatory identification of the poor did help Tamil Nadu in ensuring decentralized capacity building and support to those households who needed it most. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have problems. It has problems of its own kind. Housing program, for example, there were about 2.5 lakh people in Tamil Nadu who didn't have a house, and who didn't have land, and land had to be given by governments. Each time they were going ahead with the housing program, but leaving aside these 2 lakhs who had not been covered. Till a policy call had to be taken by the central government with Tamil Nadu state. If you do not give land to these 2 lakh, we will not give you one more house. Inko zameen do, inka ghar banao, tabhi aage banana. There is a social hierarchy issue also there. That most of the villages are very well to do, but there are a few households who still live in a kacha house, even in Tamil Nadu. Now, I think some of these sensitivities, the point I wish to drive home today, Mission Antyodaya was started with this intention that data is important, and data which is validated by the local community and placed on the government websites, on the public website for everybody to see, is always the best way to make use of data. When the Mission Antyodaya data got posted onto the site of the ministry, I had many frantic calls. Because some newspapers carried major stories about how villages of some VIPs had not become open defecation free as per the community, because Mission Antyodaya data could not be posted without the SHG and the panchayat validating that data. I had absolute frantic calls, please pull down your data, it is contradicting the data of the sanitation department. Our response was, we will not do it. We will give you time, 15 days, 30 days time. You run to those villages and get it done. If you've reported as that open defecation free, it's your responsibility to get it done. Now, I think with data, each time you conceal it under a password, each time you give limited access, you are killing data and its purpose. It must always be in the public domain. With the local government directory now available, and with sharing of APIs, it is very easy to get the full picture of what is happening in a Gram Panchayat. Whether it is housing or road or any program, you can actually get a sense of it very, very quickly. If you are able to actually push, because ultimately on this decentralization, as far as the constitution is concerned, it is the state legislature which has to take the call on funds, functions and functionaries. Unless the state legislatures agree, it will never go through. That's what the amendment 73rd, 74th provide for. Given that issue, how do we push that? Now, central, state and local governments, who are all part of the definition of the state as per the constitution, I think there has to be a political consensus that funds, functions, functionaries must move in that direction. Unless and until that happens, what we are attempting, that is the only way of achieving SDGs. Given the interconnectedness of the SDG goals, unless you create a horizontal community institution with the flexibility to innovations in human resources, innovations in flexible financing, At that level, if you don't, for example, on the subject of caregivers, all my assessments of all the programs in India on undernutrition tells me that the number of caregivers that we have provided for is inadequate. If we want higher women's participation in work, we will have to give better creches. And better creches will need more human resources, not less. So it is not that we are overstaffed. We are understaffed where we need them most. The community resource persons cadre which has come up, or the ASHA program which has come up, with some more changes, we don't want to create a new structure of government employees. That is not the intent. But somebody accountable to the community and gets a compensation which is decent enough to keep the interest alive in doing that task. I close here because I am in the bad habit of exceeding my time every time. Thanks.
No, it is indeed very educative and it's a pleasure listening to you. So I was also kind of in two minds whether to stop or not. So what do the organizers do? We have a time for a couple of questions or maybe 2 minutes each to some for final words? No. Okay. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Just, if you don't mind, just that one. So I want to thank all the panelists for the very educative and very active session. I mean, true to the expectations of, disruptive ideas, new ideas. I think a lot of ideas did come up from the panel. Sorry we could not have more time for question and answers and other interactions. So just quickly to summarize, the stance of the whole process has to be self-government. It is not, somebody top-down assisting panchayats, devolving powers, etc. The government is my government, our own government in the village. So the stance is of a self-government, and the panchayat needs to realize it, as well as the policy makers and other levels. Total trust and autonomy to those institutions is very important. So it has to be displayed through actual, actions. So if you trust the people, how you devolve resources, how do you prioritize the needs and priorities that come from the community as most important. So that has to be displayed. One very radical idea that was, any decisions taken in the whole 29 sectors which have been devolved under the 73rd Amendment, how do the panchayats get consulted for investments in each of that? I think that's a very interesting idea, which I think we can all push in our future, interventions. So total devolution, decentralization, and powers to the gram panchayats and the other tiers. That has to become very important. That has to become mainstream and has to be reflected through actual actions. Building capacities is very important. It came up yesterday, and all the panelists here also talked about building capacities of the functionaries and the people. The social capital actually exists today. We could not have imagined the localization, etc., with people's participation of the level that we're thinking of, maybe 10 years back, but now there is a tremendous social capital, the community resource persons all exist. So how do we now link very organically the local self-governments and the self-help groups and their tiers? That's very important. Introduce technology, make data available locally. These are all very important ideas, which again came up yesterday. The GPDP has to have representation from all the sectors, and that's a very wonderful imagination I think we have. We should try to make that happen. So these are, I think, some of the important ideas, and very new idea that I heard here is how do we also maybe experiment with all women panchayats. That I think is a very interesting thought. We should, I think there are some experiments happening in the country, but I think we should increase that more. And last but not least, as Mr. Singh said, the political buy-in of all this is extremely important. So how do we actually actively work, maybe the communities, the civil society organizations, all of us work towards building that political priorities and political buy-in, that I think is extremely important in making this idea of localizing SDGs more active and effective. Yeah, with that I hand over the session to the organizers. Thank you.
Thank you, Naren. On behalf of Pradhan and Axis Bank Foundation, we would like to felicitate our esteemed speakers, and for that I would like to invite Tamali on stage. After the felicitation, we will have a 15 minutes tea break, and we will be back around 12:15. Thank you so much, everyone. With this, we will be having a tea break for 15 minutes. We will gather again at 12:15. Thank you.
So all good things must come to an end, and we are literally on towards the end of Samagam 2023. All sessions, of course, are important, have been extremely important, but this particular session, which is titled Way Forward, is an indication perhaps of its importance can be gauged from the fact that while 60 minutes have been allocated to each of the earlier 6 sessions, 90 minutes have been allocated to this Way Forward session in Samagam 2023. So I would, before I start introducing our esteemed panelists, I would like to kindly invite on stage Shri Vikas Anand, Shri Kuldeep Singh, Shri Ram Pappu, Dr. Nivedita Narayan, and we have also Shri Vijayanand, Mr. S.M. Vijayanand, who will be joining us. He's already there, sir. Good afternoon from India Habitat Center, New Delhi.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Dr. Nivedita. And Mr. Ved Arya, of course. As has been the practice, a quick round of introduction. Of course, Mr. Vijayanand is very, very well known, but nonetheless, sharing the information that is available with me, Mr. Vijayanand happens to be from the 1981 batch of the IAS belonging to the Kerala cadre. His entire career has almost been in areas of rural development, local governance and decentralized planning. He has the unique distinction of having coordinated Kerala's people planning for 15 years non-stop from the day it started in 1996, sir. During this period, he has nurtured Kudumshri, which, as we all know, is a highly successful self-help group program in the country. And he has also been active in molding KILA, K-I-L-A, which is the Kerala Institute of Local Administration, into an institution of excellence. So, you know, it's a fairly long bio. All we can say is that we are extremely fortunate, sir, to have you with us and amidst us today afternoon in this very, very vital session. Shri Ved Arya ji is the founder and former CEO of Srijan, which stands for Self-Reliant Initiatives Through Joint Action, which features amongst the top non-profit organizations in India in the sustainable rural livelihood management space and empowerment of rural women. Sir, we are very pleased and happy कि आप हमारे बीच में हैं और सन 2016 में 7 वर्ष पूर्व आपने, जिसका भी जिक्र भी अभी इस मंच से हुआ था, आपने बुद्धा फेलोशिप प्रोग्राम का गठन आपने किया है, जो कि एक बहुत ही यूनिक अद्भुत प्लेटफॉर्म है, जो कि एक कंप्लीट इकोसिस्टम ऑफर करता है, विशेष तौर पर जो हमारा जो युवा नेतृत्व सामाजिक क्षेत्र में जो उभर रहा है, उसको आपने एक स्थान प्रदान किया है. और भी आप फाउंडर हैं, मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर हैं सृजन इंफ्राटेक एंड डेवलपमेंट सर्विसेज के. तो ये आपका एक संक्षिप्त परिचय. आगे बढ़ते हुए तालियों के साथ में आप लोग कृपया कर स्वागत करेंगे. विकास आनंद जी 2002 बैच के ऑफिसर हैं, आईएएस ऑफिसर हैं, जॉइंट सेक्रेटरी हैं मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ पंचायती राज गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया के. तो आपका बड़ा एक संक्षिप्त परिचय. श्री कुलदीप सिंह जी, कुलदीप सिंह चीफ एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑफिसर भारत रूरल लाइवलीहुड्स फाउंडेशन. आप स्ट्रेटेजिक लीडरशिप प्रोवाइड करते हैं, डेवलप करते हैं, मैनेज करते हैं मल्टी स्टेक होल्डर पार्टनरशिप्स में अपनी संस्था BRLF में. He facilitates and has facilitated the creation and mainstreaming of innovative practices in rural development and rural livelihoods. He guides knowledge management and capacity building programs and catalyzes fundraising initiatives तो आपका भी एक भारी भरकम परिचय, बड़ा लंबा आपका अनुभव रहा है. Our, of course, last but not the least, as always, is Ram Papu. He is the executive director of Mission Samriddhi. 2023 में अभी हम हैं, तो लगभग 10 वर्षों से आपने जब अपने जीवन की शुरुआत करी तो आपने आईटी और टेलीकॉम सेक्टर से शुरुआत करी थी, लेकिन आप पिछले लगभग 10 वर्षों से सोशल सेक्टर में हैं. And prior to joining Mission Samriddhi, Ram has volunteered for an organization that empowers rural adolescent young people through motivational workshops. He has traveled across the country, कश्मीर से केरला तक, गुजरात से अरुणाचल तक आपने यात्राएं की हैं, और 250 से ज़्यादा आप मोटिवेशनल जवाहर नवोदय विद्यालय स्कूल्स में 60,000 से ज़्यादा बच्चों को जो है आप अपने मोटिवेशनल प्रोग्राम्स के माध्यम से आप प्रेरित करने का काम कर चुके हैं. तो आपका भी यहाँ पर बहुत बहुत स्वागत है. So the challenge of hosting, moderating, anchoring this last session, this 90-minute session on way forward, goes to none else but Dr. Nivedita Narayan, who is a former, I see many smiles here, so testament to the fact that you've been in Pradhan for a long, long time, and very, very welcome to Samagam. She is the Chief Executive Officer of Charities Aid Foundation India. Dr. Nivedita Narayan is a development professional with nearly 3.5 decades of experience. Her work is driven by a commitment to social equality and collaborative work across institutions, which include जिस चीज़ को लेकर हम 2 दिन से चर्चा कर रहे हैं और आप लोग हमेशा प्रधान में चर्चा करते हैं, सरकार, समाज और बाज़ार, तो उसमें आपका एक बड़ा वृहद अनुभव है. 1987 से लेकर 2021, यानी 21 और 13, 34 वर्ष जो हैं आपने प्रधान में आपने बिताए हैं, तो उसके लिए तालियां बज रही हैं आपके लिए. एंड उसके अलावा आपने वर्ल्ड बैंक में आपके स्टिंट्स रहे हैं, आपने यूएस में भी काम किया है. Having made pioneering contributions to the establishment of India's first SHGs, she has worked in the area of gender, livelihoods, organization development, and human resource management for non-profits, setting up development practices as an academic discipline, research and advocacy. So Dr. Nivedita, before I hand over to you, I just have to say one more thing, because फिर Shikha will take over. I just want to wish each one of you and your families a very, very happy Diwali. Thank you.
Thank you all very much, and thank you for being here, everybody. I just wanted to say that I have some good news, which is that we may not necessarily go for the full 90 minutes if we are all quick, because I don't want us to be between lunch. So that's an important piece. We also have Mr. Vijay Anand joining us over video. He's not so well. So I had some things I wanted to say, but I think we'll begin. Saroj, is that right? With Mr. Vijay Anand. Just wanted to say, Mr. Vijay Anand, that you've always been, a source of great inspiration to us, inside and outside of Pradhan, inside and outside of the government, and in general. And this Samagam, which started many years ago, I think thanks to the hard work of Sudhir and Naren, and now Saroj and Sudhir and his team are pulling it forward, has really grown and is exactly an example of the way forward. Maybe there are lots of lessons for us to learn in this session on the way forward. And I just have a few points that I've been told that need to be, we want at the end of this session to have not a whole bunch of things that we talk about, but to take 3 or 4 key points that we then would commit to, which would be a call for action to us from the Samagam point of view. So I look forward to your speaking now, Mr. Vijayanand.
Thank you. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Just a small clarification. This is not the last session. This is the first session and we need to take it forward. In that sense, this is where we are starting. And I was part of the organizing group. Unfortunately, I really missed coming there personally for health reasons. But we have managed to get key policymakers and implementers, a very rich representation from civil society, who have a shared faith in SDGs. At the final panel, all of them are close friends of mine. If 4-5 of us work together, a lot can be achieved. That's the kind of panel you have today. Now, post-COVID, a big lesson which seems to have been forgotten, what saved the day for India was the partnership, not consciously designed by government, between the Gram Panchayat, the SHGs and the civil society organizations, which bore the brunt, especially in the first 9 months of 1 year. So taking lessons from that, now going up to a higher level, taking GPDP and decentralization to a new trajectory through the localizing SDGs, I think the task is cut out. So I'll give you a very, very clear agenda points. First is, wherever you're working, find out what is the level of decentralization in that state. Let's not aim for big bang and all that. It's not going to happen very quickly. As is, where is decentralization? I've done that exercise for many so-called backward states. You'll be surprised that they have substantial levels of decentralization, not realized locally, not realized by officials. And beyond that, there's an inherent strength of a local government, particularly a Gram Panchayat, gained over generations, which is not residual power legally, but is very substantial power locally. So I think we can use this. The first step is to understand and make people understand SDGs as relevant to the locality, not as relevant to the state government or as relevant to the national government, as relevant to the locality, the philosophy, the concepts, and what they can benefit from. I would give a lot of importance, more than getting into the goals and indicators. My feeling is you should not get into indicators at all vis-a-vis the Gram Panchayats. Just tell them what are the important values which underlie SDG and broadly development. That is equality, something, decent work, ecological values, especially in the face of climate change, access to justice, the meaning of justice, and what is a peaceful society, and what is sustainability, good governance, and all that. In a sense, the soft aspects of development which lay the real hard foundation for sustainable development. That is a lesson which we need to not teach the panchayats, sit together, reflect, and collectively learn. That's the most important thing to start with. And what can be done locally? You can reflect on it, for which I would request the civil society organizations to come out with some new tools. One simple PRA to assess the status of SDG in the locality. And another tool to prioritize SDGs as relevant to the locality. And linked to that, a tool to prepare a status study, be it on poverty, gender, environment, whatever it is. So these simple tools, they're all there lying around. We can pick them around and come out with a kind of a handbook, a toolkit for them to do the situation analysis. But two things we tend to omit. It's not coming out very clearly in the 9 themes also. The social justice aspect, which is everything. Sustainability is equivalent to social justice. So social justice aspect and the related good governance aspects we really need to look into. Then just a few points on the role of CSOs in this context. We need to nudge our fellow CSOs to work with Gram Panchayats. People are generally not scared, not very keen to work with Gram Panchayats for several reasons. But I think we need to start working with them. And the big lesson from Government of India, the cluster facilitation team. We form a network. There, of course, Veda Arya is there, BRLF is there, Ram Papu is there, Mission Samriddhi. They are all trying to bring together NGOs to work with local governments. So that network has to be broadened, deepened, and we need to get into GPDP through this cluster facilitation team. Obviously, we can only nurture beacons. We cannot go the whole hog and met everybody. And Pradhan has now been allowed to have a PMU within MOPR, which can probably coordinate all the activities and all the activities of all the actors, governmental and non-governmental. And we need to really build a fraternity of local government associations, Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, the colleges, the academia, and some media. Media understanding of local governance is extremely poor in the country. We nearly have to look into it. And learning that governance is more important for livelihoods than other things. That is probably a big lesson which Pradhan learned, particularly in Jharkhand. So from practice, we move on to principles. Let's start. I've given you very clear, kind of very simple pathway, but I can offer, of course, maybe from a distance and maybe even coming together. If a network is formed and the network identifies clusters of panchayats, then I can really tell you how to do 1, 2, 3, 4 steps to localize SDGs. But one point I want to add, communitizing SDGs. That is, through the SDGs, we can do a lot of SDGs. So this big partnership between GPDP and the Village Poverty and Resilience Plan or Poverty Reduction Plan is a thing of the future. SDG-GP partnership is a thing of the future. That is where we have an entry point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vijayanand. I was just wondering if we could take a couple of any burning questions that we'd like to hear from him about.
I'll stay on till the end. I'll stay on till the end.
You do feel you're up to that?
Yeah, I
Thank
can
you
stay
very
on.
much.
Right.
Okay, I was not very sure. So as we move forward, I think we'll go our 4 panelists, and maybe we do 2 rounds. We do 5 minutes and then another round, so that we can get top level views and make it a little interactive. But a few things have come up, so I just take a few minutes to frame it and then put my points in too. So I think that from where I'm sitting, I think one important thing for us to look at is the overall SDGs. It must have been covered, but that there is a gap. For example, the United Nations estimates, UN estimates, are between 5 trillion and 7 trillion per year in terms of dollars, which are needed to achieve the SDGs globally up to 2030. So if we look at that, that's about 3.3 to 4.5 trillion dollars in developing countries. And the current investment levels are around 1.4 trillion. So the gap is very clear. And I think that's also been coming up from here. That's about, so developing countries in general face a huge gap of at this level. And if we look, for example, at India, according to our own Niti Aayog, we need to funnel approximately 13% of the GDP into social causes. And the current average is roughly 7%. If I'm in front of all of you, I don't want to make mistakes on the numbers. So that means that we need new and different sources of money coming in. So the whole issue of money is coming in is not a simple one in order to achieve it. And I have one estimate from Credit Suisse where individuals more than $1 million wealth sit in the top 1% bracket. And the richest 1% captured 54% of global wealth, which means that the top 3 developed economies have huge wealth, and there's a constant influx of money. And we really need to be able to unlock the potential of individual giving to accelerate this process. It is good for us to manage with what we have, but we need to unlock this capital towards the localized SDGs, which are being talked about. So I would request, in addition to the main points that have come up, that there should be commitment by each department and each stakeholder. Your views on that in terms of the unified collaborative approach and any other points that you may have, to consider the overall volumes of funding and what new ways can there be. A second question, okay, let's go with this. So I'd like to hear from all of you on the ways ahead, in addition to the policy, what the Government of India can do on its own, but what else is required to support and bolster this. So maybe we can start with Ved and then come down. Thanks, Ved. I'm sorry to spring this on you.
Just come from the US, so there is the funding issue is a big one. Everybody is committed to give money for climate. And whatever that means in COP28, what is likely to happen that you can imagine and also predict what is likely to happen, who will give money for people in the villages who are suffering floods or whatever other climatic impact. So that's a big issue. But let me, I want to go back to the origins of Pradhan and origins of Asefa, which is the mother of Pradhan. Listening to Mr. Lango, I was thinking of the days in which we joined Pradhan and we used to visit Asefa and Madurai villages where the origins of Gramdan and Bhudan was there. So I met somebody called Bill Drayton recently, and he's 80 years old. And we walked around in Arlington Cemetery. He can walk faster than me. He's 80 years old, so I'm 15 years younger, but he could still outpace me. He recalled an incident for my benefit and how he came to name his fellowship as Ashoka Fellowship. At the age of 18, he drove from Munich to Delhi by Volkswagen car along with two of his friends to go and discover as to what is the spirit behind Gandhi's work, because Martin Luther King in those days was trying to do reconciliation, whatever civil rights movement in the US, so he wanted to go and see for himself as to what was happening in India. He walked with Vinoba, he said to me, in Odisha, and he met JP. And this guy at 18 years of age is a New Yorker, born to grandfather, also came to New York, mother came from Australia. So he drove from Munich to Delhi. When he crossed the border, Indian soldiers welcomed him with a box of mangoes. He got hooked to India, and then the rest is history, that how he came to name his fellowship of social entrepreneurship as this. Why I'm talking about this? Where does the inspiration come from? I'm reading a book which Achintya gave me, God Lived With Them. It describes Vivekananda's last dying days, and he says, I have no fear of death, no doubt, no fear about death. He takes two pebbles and hits each other. I'm so hard that nothing is going to affect me. He feeds on Ekadashi, Sister Nivedita, the food, whatever it's crab apples, whatever that is, and people are questioning. She questions him as to why I should be actually giving you food, especially you are not going to see 40. He says, Jesus washed the feet of disciples. So why I'm saying this is because the spirit with which we are saying, Anjani, you talked about self. Self can be associated with ego, but self also can be associated with merging yourself with the others. So if, Vijayanandji, we are talking about listening to community, listening to panchayats, first thing to do is to merge your ego with the community. Can we listen to them? The rest of the citadel, whatever superstructure we are talking about, whether departments will come to them or the CSOs will come to them, it is to start with, merging your ego. And as we used to say in Pradhan, we are the zeros and you are the heroes, especially the district collectors, whenever we talk to them. So I think with this start, I want to talk about the change agents we have to support in the community, whether they are CRPs or whether they are sarpanches, whether they are pradhanites or whatever the rest of it. How do you support the people who are change agents there? In RCRC, this coalition that we built, along with Naren and Apurva and many people here, Ranjan and others, we found evidence that women depended and got support that they wanted. Expected support is the term, more from ASHA, Anganwadi workers and the SHGs, and not even from the CSOs. So I think the local institutional development that we are talking about today is it's a task unfinished, and we have to continue to strengthen and empower the community level people. Whatever resources we have, can we build more, bring more resources to them than whatever is the percentage of overheads that we charge in our budget. So that is one major thing. What are the ways in which to increase the number of committed people to community at the grassroots level is something that is evidence also now, as I said recently, in the research. Second thing I want to talk about data. That when we talk about localizing or communitizing SDGs, as you said, Vijayananji, that what is the data about the several things, SDGs, that we talk about. The effort that coalition made in terms of 40 organizations participating, we have done two things. And one, that it is not the researcher doing the survey. It is the practitioners such as us who are sitting here, they actually go and do the survey. So we want to bring the practitioners with the help of people like Ankur Sareen to do the survey on the ground. And that has brought some very interesting data. I want to just quote a couple of them and then I'll end.
And we'll
then we'll go to the next one. We found that 81% women reported their lives had worsened during COVID. 84% of the adult women on an average did not have the agency, decision-making agency, except for cooking. You would find that very shocking that number of people who missed, 89% had ration cards, but 90% of the household skipped a meal, including in the blocks where many of the NGOs work. So this is the power of the data I want to bring about to policymakers, to those who allocate resources for the SDGs. This is what we have to do, and we have to do it collaboratively. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ved. The whole issue of the change makers at the last mile, the hyper-local change makers, and the issue of bringing data, not only from all kinds of people, various diverse sources of data, but then feeding it back to them so they can use it to bring about changes in their practice, both of which need to be attended to. It would be very nice to hear from you, from the Mission Samruddhi point of view.
Thank you, Samagam, for this opportunity. I'm very humbled to be here with people who have actually inspired us to do the work that we are doing. With Dr. W.R. Reddy, with whom we started off with NIRDPR. We were so inspired by, Sonali introduced us to Pradhan, working with Pradhan and taking the work forward that we do. We are a social impact platform working in 7 states, and we've evolved a cluster development program that works with a unit of Gram Panchayats as a change, inspired again by the ARP initiative. 10 to 12,000 population, cluster of villages, and we work for the holistic development of the cluster of villages over a 3-year period. Holistic meaning personal development, social development, economic development, and Vijayananji actually told us you're forgetting ecology, so we added ecological development, and last but not the least, institutional development. Strengthening the Gram Sabhas, strengthening the Ward Sabhas, strengthening the Gram Panchayats, the standing committees, working with institutional development. We are today in 100 plus clusters, about 500 plus panchayats, about 1.2 million Indians, about 265,000 households, but very small compared to Pradhan. We are still babies compared to the amount of work that people in this room have been doing. One observation that I would like to share, coming from us over the last 7 years, unless and until there is a desire from within to change, when I'm saying within, even the people in the villages, unless and until there's a desire from within to change the current situation, little will happen. And that desire must lead them to seek knowledge that can address their needs, current and beyond, and it should give them something to dream for. I repeat, something for them to dream for. That seeding that desire, that dream to change, and instilling self-belief, ownership, and a vision towards a better quality life, this is fundamental. So LHD is a great, but if we are all able to work with the community, don't assume that the community has already got that visualized state of, dreaming what they should be doing to. There are ways to do it. So in Mission Samruddhi, we have tried in a small way with programs called Samruddhi Yatra and Unmukt. These are experiential leadership development programs where we have taken Sarpanchas from Jammu and Kashmir to Ervi Perur in Kerala. People cried when they saw the ocean for the first time. And then they realized that, the women are at the forefront of development here. And a lot of blind spots opened up within them. about how, and some of these sarpanchas have gone back and they have become national award winning sarpanchas. In Rajouri, there's a young fellow called Akis Nasser, 24-year-old fellow from Jamola, who came for Samriddhi Yatra, got so inspired and went and became the best child panchayat award, National Child Panchayat Award, best sarpanch. So there are these things happening. And if you look at Ilangoji, if you look at Popatrao Pawar, if you look at Ralegaon Siddhi, or if you look at Digambarpur, all these panchayats either inspired leadership from within or an agency coming from outside trying to help them, like the space project where Pradhan and Anode Governance Lab went and inculcated the system of panchayat development in Jharkhand. So unless that happens, communities may unfortunately not do much in their own ineptitude. So how can that happen? How can that desire be built? How can that self-belief be instilled? This is an area which we are humbly trying to work. I think this is very fundamental, that self-belief, and again, self, local self-government, self-help groups, self-belief of the individual, self-belief of the communities, leadership development. Yesterday, Sunil Kumar ji mentioned that leadership development. In Hindi mein, mahol banana hai. That environment to really do it bottom up, instead of pushing LSDGs, can we be like, attract them? Can it be a pull approach? Can we pull them into believing what is important for them? What are their, first of all, they have to visualize when they go to Ervi, Perur or Kerala, they're having this grand now, okay, what can I do in my own village in the next 5 years? Right? We have had people from Sonbhadra in UP go to Ervi, Perur in 2-3 months back, so inspired. Now they come back and they've heard first time about a concept called OSR, own source of revenue. And they have instilled own source of revenue in their own villages now. Right? So that seeing is believing, feeling is believing. When you see and you feel, come back, visualize, now they visualize their own 5-year plan for their Adarsh Gaon jo banana hai, and then they're able to prioritize their own problems. And we call all problems are not the same. You have 10 gram problem, 100 gram, 1000 gram problems. Having your own problems, prioritizing your own problems, having the solutions, hopefully putting the data together. Now I'll come to specifically your point about how to raise funds. Can I do it now or can I probably come back to it?
Please,
Yeah.
a couple of minutes on that.
Couple of minutes on that. There are two ideas which I've been kind of toying around. One is you all would have heard about social stock exchange. And I was with the social stock exchange with Hemant Gupta, who's now the head of the social stock exchange, and people from SEBI. See, there are two big drivers here at the social stock exchange, that institutions who are working for holistic development or institutions who are going to focus on LSDGs can actually come together and list themselves in social stock exchange, provide the SSC, certifies them. Then what happens? Then you're able to raise zero coupon, zero principal bonds. These are bonds which you can float, which you can collect public money. I mean, people can, or donors, foundations can now invest in the zero coupon, zero principal bonds because they have been trusted and validated by SSC. There are guidelines to get it yourself into the system. Unnati Foundation from Bangalore last month issued a zero coupon, zero foundation bond for 1 crore rupees. So this is how you can attract funding from the donor community for those organizations who are going to work strongly on LSDGs. So my request is, if MORD and if MOPR can actually work with the industry, with the social stock exchange, incentivize them to come up with methods of how, if you are a institution driving LSDGs, can they be given bonus points of, or fast tracking them to issue zero coupon, zero principal bonds? So that's on the demand side. On the supply side, can we look at CSRs? Can we look at foundations who can go and fund these zero coupon, zero principal bonds, and can we do something for them? This is my first suggestion. My second suggestion is, there is a big movement called ESG. Environment, social, governance, amongst corporate India, where corporations are now supposed to submit their ESG recommendation, ESG compliance. It's becoming a compliance by SEBI that you have to file your ESG reports.
Yes.
So can we work with corporations that ESG programs for net carbon impact reduction based on natural farming or nature-based solutions or leading to LSDGs, can we work at that level, at the ministry level or with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs to help ESG focus on LSDGs? Because what happens is what's in it for me comes in always the corporates. Here now is a clear win-win because now you're enticing the corporates to work on ESG based on LSDG guidelines. And so they would be obviously be interested in doing that. And the IT sector, there is a very big push from European and American companies now for IT companies in India to comply to net carbon reduction as part of the ESG. So that can also become a big driver, which means you can work with the NASSCOM, the CII, the FICCI, and all the other business groups to look at ESG, and not for their own good, but also for the greater good.
Thank you so much. Yes, the Scope 3 emissions are now catching up with everybody. So there is a whole new push. But I really think, at least from our point of view here, there are 2 points I wanted to highlight, which, number one, we hear and feel you. The first point being that let's not assume that everybody can dream. I remember in the old days we had that paper, remember Naren? Daring to Dream. Let's not assume that everybody can dream. And the second thing is, which is very Robert Chambers-esque, which is whose agenda is it? So let's address those two, and when we bring in the new monies and use what's here, let's keep these in mind. Thank you so very much. I just wanted to come to you with the, from the point of view of the most important ministry in this whole country today, I guess. Just wanted to ask one question to layer it in the interest of time, which is, I think, about gender and women's voice and agency. So when we're looking, I myself have a new project, which is called The Power of Two, what Anjani was talking about. If you bring the self-help groups and the panchayats together, and you look at women sarpanchas, and we build groups of them to be able to get over proxyism, to be able to change their situation and meet their constituencies, who are the women, also women citizens of the country, there's lots that needs to be done. So if you could also throw some light on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And after hearing Mr. Ved Arya, Mr. Ram, and the speakers of the yesterday, and Mr. Majid Sinha, and those who are on the dais today. So I joined the Ministry of Panchayati Raj in February, and before that, most of my experience is in the urban administration. So still I think myself to be novice, still learning, and I am learning like the suggestions made by Mr. Ram regarding social stock exchange. I have to learn about that, what we can do, how we can do, whatever Mr. Ved Arya has told. So, but one thing which I have seen is that we started the Panchayati Raj movement, the community development in 1950s. I am new, but I think everybody here, they are professionals, they are experts in the field. How many universities do we have teaching rural development in Panchayati Raj? If you compare it with other areas, other subjects, which are part of the day-to-day life, which are part of the administration, the governance, you will see that we have very few institutions who are dedicated to rural development studies, Panchayati Raj studies. You will get some courses in IGNOU. Recently, as a good development, we have the university which has come up at Gadag, and some other universities which have taken up the courses in rural development and Panchayati Raj. So, but there is a progress. Similarly, when we talk about gender, there is a very, very popular couplet that सदियों ने खता की, लम्हों ने खता की थी, सदियों ने सजा पाई है. तो इसी तरह से जो सदियों से जो चलता आया है, ऐसा नहीं है कि आज हम 70 साल में 4000 साल, 3000 साल, 2000 साल का सारा हम कवर कर लेंगे. बट वी हैव कम अ लॉन्ग वे. काफ़ी हम लोग हम लोगों ने प्रोग्रेस करी है, काफ़ी तरक्की करी है. जेंडर इक्वालिटी से ज़्यादा जो एक्विटी है उस पर अभी बात करी, जो विजयानंद सर ने बात करी कि वी हैव टू टॉक अबाउट सोशल जस्टिस, वी हैव टू टॉक अबाउट एक्सेस टू जस्टिस. ये सब चीज़ें हम अब जो डेवलपमेंट के हमारे जो आयाम हैं, द पैराडाइम्स ऑफ डेवलपमेंट वर लिमिटेड ओनली टू हाउ वी हैव बिल्ट द रोड्स, हाउ वी हैव एंश्योर्ड द फूड सिक्योरिटी, बट how we will ensure the equity, how we will ensure the access to justice to all women, all genders, to children, where how we can address the issues of missing girls, the trafficking. Similarly, in the panchayats, we are doing whatever, not the government, not only the government, but more than that, people, the CBOs, the people like we are in this hall, they are doing lot of things, and it's a collective approach. It will take time. It's very difficult to bring about the changes which we aspire for in such a limited period of time, especially the this 73rd amendment is only 30 years, it's only 3 decades. So it's also very heartening to see that now our aspirations are so great that in 30 years we are expecting that we will cover whatever was done, the damage which was being done, which has been done, which had been done in so many centuries. But in the panchayats, there is no doubt there is still lot of influence of the male gender, wherever the women are working as the elected, they are working as sarpanch, elected members. That doesn't mean that there is no learning, there is no improvement in the social status, and also they are taking decisions which were hitherto not taken by the women, and maybe the men in the family, they are working in the front, but it also doesn't imply that all the decisions are those which are taken by the men. There are customs, they are also breaking down, the taboos are breaking down. So I think the efforts of the NGOs, the organizations which are working in this field, including Pradhan, for so many decades of working. So there has been changes, and more than me, I am a novice, but you must be knowing how the situation has changed. Not the situation in the states where lot of decentralization has taken place, but at the same time, the states which are traditional, which are conservative, lot of good developments had happened, and even the workshops which we have organized, we have seen the large number of women EWRs are coming, they are telling about the problems they are facing, and it will take time. It will still take some time.
Thank you so much. I think the commitment that is being shown by reservation for women in this entire process, and the push that we, and your own commitments to it, are a way forward, that if we don't want to leave no one behind, then not only is it an issue of the community, but all our organizations need to make sure that we, so I think that's one very clear thing coming out. Thank you so very much. And as we come to the BRLF point of view, I just wanted to highlight one point, apart from what you'd like to share, which is what's coming out, that we are privileged here, most of us, to the extent I know, are from largish NGOs. But if we talk about change agents, our country has got very many smaller organizations which are very close to communities, which are in a sense representative of local contexts, socio-cultural, etc. And where the trust factor, in areas where the larger organizations also may not be able to go on a sustained basis. And I think your organization is a very, very unique formation covering these kinds of organizations together with other membership organizations and so on, with government as well as other monies. So it would be very nice to hear from you about what you think the next steps would be. Things that we don't want to look in the rear view mirror as we go ahead. So what is it that we are looking ahead to, especially from you?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving this opportunity. BRLF is set up by Government of India, and our parent ministry is Ministry of Rural Development. And we give funding support we support civil society organization, and the path has been shown by our funding architect. Actually, our funding architect is very different from other. We give funding support to the smaller or the bigger organization, which is a critical support, that is the project management cost, the HR cost, the capacity building cost, which is many times which is not available, which is very difficult to get, and the civil society always struggle to retain their quality human resources. So we give funding support for that. And the partner has to leverage the huge amount of investment which is made by the Government of India or the state government. So there is a huge outlays, but there is no outcomes. There is a outlays which is committed by the Government of India, but we are not seeing the same kind of corroborated outcomes which is coming or visible at the field level. So this is how we had started, and initially we started within standalone projects in BRLF, and we partnered with bigger organizations like Pradhan, BIAF, Srijan, AKRSP, FES, and some smaller organizations also. Because our mandate, the mandate which was given by to BRLF was to support civil society action, upscale the civil society in partnership with the state government or the central government. So we found that the bigger organization, they were more privileged to leverage resources from the government program, because they have credibility, they have visibility, they have very good terms with the block administration, district administration. But the smaller organization, they struggled. They struggled a lot, because making a relationship, and then we also tried to to facilitate this, but somehow it was very struggling. So in 2017, I'll take some more time, okay?
Sure, I'm just reminding you there's lunch.
Yeah, okay. So in 2017, the path, because why I'm telling our journey, because the way forward is within that journey. So there is a way forward to go ahead. So in 2017, Sinha sir has already said that the very good work is done in Sikkim, leveraging resources from MG Narega. So Commissioner West Bengal, he approached to BRLF and he said that he also want to do similar project in 4 northern West Bengal district to rejuvenate the springs, because many of the springs are getting dry or discharge are low. And he said that you give funding support to the CSOs, technical support, you bring the technical support, I will provide you the MG Narega funding. So we said, okay, fine. This is the model, this is the BRLF model. We will support the CSO, and the money will come from MG Narega. So there is no issue of leveraging, there is no challenge for leveraging. So that went very well, and almost 300 springs we treated in Port district. And that model struck BRLF and Commissioner MG Narega. He was very dynamic officer, Devendra Sarkar. So he said, he again came to BRLF, and he said that, BRLF and Pradhan, he said that, can we take this model in a bigger way in the western part of West Bengal, where there's a lot of degradation is happening, and can we implement MG Narega in a watershed mode? This is the first time that MG Narega was visualized like a watershed project. So Satyada and Naren and me and Pramatesh, we were all looking each other, ki kya kehna hai, kare, nahi kare, itna bada scale. So we said, nahi, okay, we will do this. So we started this Ushar Mukti project in 54 blocks. And this is the first time in West Bengal when a consortium of NGOs, 7 NGOs, are implementing one project. So now coming to the smaller NGOs. So the smaller NGOs, they immediately they got, because there is a written agreement between BRLF, Pradhan and state government that BRLF will bring this much of money, investment, that goes to, especially to the CSO cost, facilitation cost, and government will bring this much of money from Manrega fund for structures, creating structures and assets, all these things. So the smaller organization, they get recognition. Immediately they get recognition, block level पे उनको काम करना है, सब कुछ करना है, district level पे, they have to deal with the DNOs and all this. So they got recognition from the state government and then the visibility also. And first and the most important critical thing is they got a confidence that they can work. Many of the smaller organizations, they build their vertical with BRLF support as a watershed vertical or something like that. So this was the first breakthrough that, coming to funding also, because the funding is also there. So we developed 2,000 DPRs. 2,000 DPRs, wow. And 3,000 Dhara Sevak was trained in that project. And we leveraged 2,000 crore of rupees from Manrega for creating assets. So the investment, now coming to the facilitation cost, it was only 17 to 20 crore rupees which we invested, and we leveraged 2,000 crore. So this is one way we can mobilize funds. Like the critical gap, you see that there is only one person, Rozgar Sahayak, who is looking after the 5 Gram Panchayats. It's very difficult that he is going to do a very good planning in MG Narega. वो कभी नहीं कर सकता, उसके पास इतना टाइम नहीं है, उसके पास इतना रिसोर्सेस नहीं है, वो कभी नहीं जा सकता, तो वो कभी बैठ के तो it is, MG Narega was completely a patchy work. So first time we given a shape that rich to valley approach can be done. and again, in a very political charged state, कि वहाँ तो मारपीट भी हो सकता था, वो एक डर था, and there are so many complications at the field level. So looking into this experience, then Chhattisgarh Commissioner, he came, then we started our project with Pradhan in Chhattisgarh in a scale, 26 blocks, 13 partner, again smaller CSO partner, Ganga bhai बैठे हैं, very small, इनका कोई experience नहीं था watershed में, लेकिन इन्होंने अपने आप को build किया आज. So ये model फिर छत्तीसगढ़ से, then it Jharkhand, then it's Maharashtra, then Bodoland. So now we are working in 9 states with a state partnership project. So collaboration is one way forward. Collaboration, because see, government can bring the quantity, but they cannot bring the quality. So then CSO has a very unique feature that they bring the quality. So community processes and everything. So अगर एक दूसरे को complement करके अगर हम collaborations को देखते हैं, तो that is one of the most critical way forward for achieving SDGs. And way forward में मैं ये भी collaboration में ये भी कहूँगा कि इस journey में it is not only BRLF and Pradhan, it is government, it is CSOs, it is BRLF, it is CSR, then community, then PRIs, all actors are working together. So that's the thing.
Thank you very much. That was very inspiring. Ladies and gentlemen, I work with an organization called Charities Aid Foundation India, and we too are committed to this. We see ourselves now, we're 25 years old and have pivoted to a wholly new strategy post-COVID, and we see ourselves as a catalytic platform, also bringing different actors together around a variety of developmental themes, starting with early childhood development to livelihood, skills and jobs, all the way to health and green transitions with water and other renewable sources of energy. So I'm just happy to introduce that to you. I know we're running a little over time, but I think it wouldn't be fair before we you know, all of us have to stand before others. I'm being asked all the time, what's your 2-minute pitch? So can I put you on a spot? I'm going to just read out, I have 6 points I think that have come out of this, apart from the overall funding landscape. So there are more investments required globally and nationally for this to happen. Having said that, that's not what we are here to talk about. So when we talk about localizing SDGs, my own understanding is 6 points have come. Number 1, and I'm going to choose my number 1, I think gender responsiveness. How do we look at sticky floors, broken rungs in the ladder, and glass ceilings within our own organizations and systems, and also out there in the community where women are involved? The second is, of course, listening closely to communities, learning to listen, we've all discussed it, and co-creating solutions. So collaborations have to be also taking community voices in. The third is climate sensitive ESG goals, basically. How do we tap into those in our framing of the way ahead? Because it isn't so clear just now. The fourth and most overarching was just now a unified collaborative approach. We need to come together, and all of these 3 things are pivots or pillars of the unified collaborative approach, as I understood it. And therefore, the provision of adequate financial and human resources. Many of us here are very admiring of the movement called Pay What It Takes. Let's not shortchange CSOs because they're free labor, maybe they're not as good as the rest of the sectors. Let's not look down on ourselves and on each other. So let's pay what it takes in a transparent way, and that'll bring human resources in. Otherwise, human resources are very precarious in this sector. They are on annual project-specific contracts. They don't have long-term commitment, professional growth. It's not a luxury. It's a requirement. And the most important is commitment by each stakeholder towards this. So this is what seems to have come out, 6 key points from our Samagam 2023. And I'd like to start with you, Mr. Vijay Anand. I hope you won't think it's cheeky of me to ask you for 2 minutes.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, please ask.
So what's the next? If these are the summary of points, have we left something out? Would you have any last thoughts for our wonderful group here?
No, I'll go back to your first question on resources. I'm not speaking of additional resources. As of now, I guess at least 1.5 lakh crore or very close to 2 lakh crore are getting planned for at the local level. If they are properly planned for and really linked to the local needs, I'm sure there will be a 20% efficiency just in spending because you give what people want. Second, leakages are very, very high because there is no participation. And I guess it will be anywhere around 20%, put it very minimum. So if you add all this 20% with the existing resources through participatory local planning based on local discussions, as you said, co-creating solutions, your gains will be huge because it's not ordinary money which is getting spent across the country. So that is the importance of participatory local planning, involving the SHGs, going to the Gram Panchayats, measuring results, involving the expertise of CSOs. So that's a big picture by itself.
Those 2 insights are so very useful. We're already from 1 into 1.40% more can be done just by, can be raised by just being more efficient and plugging leakages.
And there is a third element, which I don't quantify. When people get the things they want, they are willing to contribute, they are willing to be more active. So is what I call low cost, no cost development. Just by some technology, just by some cooperative work, the gains could be even much more.
That's a great insight. Thank you so much. Ved? Is that mic working?
I want to continue the thing about the change agent. I want to propose a term for change agent here for everyone to consider. I heard it last night. Community steward. whether it's a sarpanch that you highlighted, Ram, or we talk about a person from within the community as a CRP or a community micro entrepreneur, can we actually create demand by having a community steward at the panchayat level, at the village level, at the ward level, who will create capacity to, just as Amarjit said, to hold Gram Sabhas. So, as you said, Rozgar Sahayak is not sufficient. Can we have a capable community steward who will drive the local SDG approach in the communities? That's point one. Second, learning from our 3 years of RCRC, can we have collaboration of the CSOs? We started with 7. We are today 98 NGOs and we work in 110 districts. We mobilize $7 million in 2 years' time. Can there be a collaboration of CSOs to work on the local SDG approach across the country? And I think that is the second thing I want to say. Third, I want to say that the kind of a resource transfer that milk movement, white revolution brought, that also we have to look at. We are talking about money from the government. What about the kind of money that milk revolution brought? In my own experience in talk, every year we brought 5 crore rupees revenue for dairy program. When the 4th year happened, we did a research and we found there's no poverty left. Every household was having a gas cylinder. So kind of transformation you can have in resource transfer. I would also try to bring the business of the supply chains or the value chains. That can the panchayats adopt the idea of a milk cooperatives also in its ambit. So the empowerment of village community that we are seeing and the data you quoted 1%, that has to stop and resource has to be transferred. The resources cannot be only on pity or the charity. I would say that more and more processing and such as custard apple or milk has to happen close to where the community is. Then only we can see wealthy villages. And that is the third recommendation to work on.
Thank you very much.
The first one is, I think, I'll want to talk more about the soft rather than the hard. The soft factor rather than the hard is the policies, practices, resources that we have, the line department schemes. But emphasis on the soft, building the self-belief among communities. And for this, the capacity building fund that is there in RGSA, can we apportion some funds for behavioral change communication? Can we have, there are wonderful interventions in this country from organizations like Abhivyakti and others who do wonderful programs around empowering community with Nukkad Nataks, etc. So can we have some portion of funds, especially for behavioral change, which is very, very fundamental, number one. I'll borrow an idea from Vikas. In fact, we had thought about this mission somebody long back. Can we institute an Indian Institute of Panchayat Management? A branded Indian Institute of Panchayat Management, just like you have IIMs and IITs, can we have a 3-year or 4-year leadership development programs for panchayats, for developing leadership for panchayats, the ER, the ward members or the panchayats, let them go through professional courses like the IIPM, right? Yeah. That's the second thing. And the third thing, for the Samagam team, which I consider myself a part of, going forward from here, there are a lot of best practices which are already available in Theme 1 to Theme 9 of the LHDGs. So I was hearing Charanjit Singh say that can we have a portal for micro videos on training people, right? Yeah. Now there are already learning platforms. I saw one platform in Odisha from Aveti Learning. Now there are, so can we collect the best practices in Theme 1 to Theme 9? Vertically, what are the best practices? And horizontally, there are functional competencies. Functional competencies, what I mean by is like learning platforms for good quality micro video content. This can be a functional, horizontal. And of course, the best practices. So these are my 3 recommendations, I would say, to take it forward.
These are absolutely wonderful, and I know somebody here is taking copious notes. So we'll get back to you on these.
Thank you once again. I feel that if you, I am very utilitarian, and if if I say we have to achieve, we have to localize the SDGs. Yeah. आपको SDG में पता है कि आप you have to reduce the IMR to 25. मेरे को 2,50,000 पंचायत हैं, उसमें हर एक के अपने टारगेट अलग होंगे. Nobody knows that. जब तक हम टारगेट ही नहीं हमारे पास, तो हम क्या बोलेंगे कि करना क्या है? तो जब तक हम लोकलाइजेशन ऑफ SDGs को एज अ कंसेप्ट हम, इट्स वेरी वेरी एब्स्ट्रैक्ट. तो मैं जितनी भी पंचायत में गया हूँ, आई वॉज इन फॉर अराउंड 3 weeks आई वॉज इन कर्नाटका एंड आई विजिटेड नंबर ऑफ पंचायत. किसी को नहीं पता है क्या संकल्प लिया है, क्या LSDG है. सो इफ जैसे वट Vijayanand sir has told, we have over 5 lakh thousand from the fund. We have funds in every ministry, and I think, sir, it is more than 5 lakh thousand. So 5 lakh crores. Sorry. So data collection and giving target in each and every village. We have no malaria cases in Kashmir. Similarly, we have number of panchayats where there are no cases of any vector-borne disease. There are no cases of TB. तो हमने टारगेट क्या दिया है, लोकलाइज करना क्या है. हम, मेरे को SDG का पता है कि ये मेरे टारगेट्स हैं, नेशनल लेवल पे मेरे को अचीव करने हैं. लोकल लेवल पे टारगेट क्या है. सो आई थिंक quantification of targets has to be given to people, otherwise they will never relate to it. It will remain a concept which we will discuss in these halls, and it will never be accepted by the, or internalized by the people.
Absolutely.
So this is my only thing, and we are working. We are standing on the shoulders of the giants. Sir is there. Sunil Kumar sir has spoken yesterday. So now we are working on data collection and preparation of the Panchayat Development Index, the thematic scores, so that I should know where I stand. मेरे यहाँ कितने MMR कितना है, maternal mortality rate कितना है, इसको कम कितना करना है, how much anemia is there, how much I have to reduce. मेरे को डिस्ट्रिक्ट का पता है, स्टेट का पता है, NFHS स्टेट का बता देगा कि यहाँ पे 10% है. सर ने बोला कि केरला में 0.065% है, बिहार में 33% है. बट इवन इन बिहार देयर विल बी पॉकेट्स वेयर इट विल बी 3%, इट मे बी 2%, एंड पॉकेट्स वेयर इट विल बी 60%. तो कम कितना करना है वो तभी आएगा जब मेरे पास डेटा है, एंड उसको हमने टारगेट नहीं दिए हैं. We even indicators which sir has said may not be part of the PDI. So we have to go back to the people and ask कि उनका target क्या है, वो क्या करना चाहते हैं. Every village, every panchayat may have a different targets and different aspirations. So we have to work on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And there are in the bag there are 2 documents at the end of which there's a lot of data on the indicators, tracking, and actually making sure it happens. Please.
So my view would be, I would like to second Ved's views, building the frontline functionaries, which is very critical, because see, we are working in a very interior tribal regions, and we found that the most critical gap is the quality human resources deployed at the village level or the panchayat level. So building capacities of the frontline functionaries, be it NGOs, frontline functionaries, CRPs, Rozgar Sahayak or MG Narega employees, is very critical to achieve to localize the SDGs. The second thing is, like, I will emphasize on that, prototype planning, which is very important, because right now, if we are going for a structure which is created under MG Narega, it is only farm pound and then Manrega commitment is over. So creating structure is not going to give any kind of gainful gain to the farmer unless that structure is linked with the production system. So we have a wonderful example in Chhattisgarh where we had layered the farm pod into various livelihood activities like fisheries, duckeries, tailories, trellis, and then horticulture. So these are the activities, the prototype planning, because if you go to the community and say that we came here to build a farm pond, he will not take it very positively. If you say that we came here to give these sort of all kind of things. So because of that, the conversion is very important. Once the Manrega work is over, then the fisheries can come, then the animal husbandry can come, then the agriculture, then horticulture. So working in a conversions and prototype planning is one of the most critical part which I feel has to be done.
so very much. I think all of you would agree that not only do we have lessons, we have very specific insights. I don't know who would I ask. Would you like to? We have 2 minutes to 1:30. So would you like to open it up, or should we chat over lunch after the closing session? Great. So thank you very much.
Can I take one?
Certainly. Somebody needs to give you a mic. Or should I get one here?
No. Thank you. Thank you. I'm Dr. W already. I think it doesn't matter.
No, it's very important, Dr. Reddy. People right at the end. Abhijit
Okay.
wants to hear you.
I'm Dr. W already. I worked as DZNIRD, retired. I'm associated with Panchayat, functioning in different areas. I was the chairman of NCBF committee. I hope MOPR will open those books and start implementing them. Since Vikas is here, I would like to make use of this opportunity to remind. It's a beautiful document which can create the whole framework for capacity building for achieving SDGs by 2030. And I think based on whatever the discussion and based on the knowledge that is available and based on the experience across the agencies, organizations, I think maybe Samagam should create a project. Who is going to contribute, who is going to implement, who is going to partner, doesn't matter. Because we are left with only 7 years. So I think it should move in a project mode and map the stakeholders, agencies, who are active where geographically, where are the gaps, so that those gap areas we can nudge the other agencies to come in and then help. The third, of course, the data, as Vikas rightly said, until unless I know where my next child is to immunize, the sarpanch or let us say the Anganwadi cannot do it. Mapping those, whatever the indicators, whatever it may be. It may be very dynamic document. It is not very tight, watertight document, but a dynamic document. And then map the resources. I think the beautiful concept of BRLS, filling the gap, providing that project management funding. Government has a lot of issues of procedures for engaging consultants or supporting the CSOs. It's beautiful. In fact, I have done in my own earlier capacity in the Ministry of Agriculture. I said, you bring in this expertise for me, remaining hardcore money, I have plenty of money for other things like MGN or EGA. But for this soft component, I don't have. I cannot engage and then procedure of engaging the consultants and all, it will, by the time I'm out. So map all these factors, all these layers, maybe multiple layers, it may appear to be very complex. Then start driving maybe one group at the government level and another group at the Samagam or other NGO or the collaboration RC, RA or whatever that is happening.
Yes.
Without a project mode, we keep talking even in 2029 also similar fashion. I think we should do in that action.
Yes, I just wanted to to thank you, because I hear that especially a gathering like this over 2 days, you have given us a call for action, a call to action. I think that was missing. Lessons and insights are good, but we do need a call to action. And here it is.
Thank you, sir. And we are working on NCBF. We have been consulting with the states. We have on 6 topics, we have already issued advisories and we are following up. And you will be happy to know that almost 50% of the states are setting up PLCs. By 31st of March, we will invite you for discussion, sir. And there more than 100 PLCs will be set up. And almost, so secondly, regarding the collaboration with the academic institutes and the institutes of excellence, we have already, initially we wrote to the states, and then we have come up with a scheme which was approved in the last CEC, and the first introductory course is being anchored by the MOPR in IIM Ahmedabad, and there will be 60 ERs as well as officials who will be attending the program. So maybe in December or January. So we have also asked the states to form PRI associations. We have also requested them for PRI, SHG partnership, CBO partnership, and all the chapters that we are doing, we are going through them, and we are working with the states for having a better capacity of this capability framework for the Panchayati Raj. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, and a request. Thank you. Oh, please, I'm sorry, could you please just... Sir, lunch is more important. I mean, looks like I have different priorities. Should I go? No. Okay.
Thank you, Nivedita, and thank you to our esteemed speakers for this fruitful session. To facilitate the guest, I would like to invite on stage Naren.
Naren, you are between lunch and us.
You have a lot of pressure in between lunch and yeah.
To Nivedita also. Thank you so much, Mr. Vijayananji, for joining us in the detailed way forward session. Thank you so much.
Hi.
Oh, I think he has left. Oh, he's here. As we are nearing to our lunch break and towards the closure of the session, last but not the least, for the closing remarks, I would like to call on stage Mr. Saroj Kumar Mahapatra. and Mr. Jason Jacob from Axis Bank Foundation. Before we go on to the remarks, a brief introduction is required for Saroj and Jason. So, starting with Saroj. Saroj has more than 26 years of experience of working with state government projects, multi-stakeholder networks, and several projects of WFP, IAFAD, UNICEF, NREGA, and NRLM, with a focus on the participatory planning process involving the marginalized households in the remotest area of Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. He directly worked with poor communities of central India, tribal pockets, and has also been instrumental in preparing the INRM manual for NREGA implementation. He also has been part of the working groups for inclusive planning processes for village development plans. Currently, he is working as Executive Director at Pradhan. Mr. Jason, with a career spanning 2 decades, Jason's expertise comprises of banking, education, program management, mentoring, and rural development. Jason's dedication to social impact was ignited during his tenure as a Teach for India Fellow in 2010, where he taught underprivileged students in Mumbai, kindling his passion to work in the development sector, aligning seamlessly with Axis Bank's CSR initiatives. Currently, Jason is a program lead in the Axis Bank Foundation. With this, I welcome Saroj at podium to do the closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sikha. I think from the yesterday's, the sessions were excellent actually. And thanks to all the panelists for these wonderful sessions. And just I would like to highlight some of the key takeaways for Pradhan and all the stakeholders. We think like it's not, the session is not about the summarization of all the panel. Actually, इतना अच्छा panel discussion हुआ है, summarization का जरूरत नहीं है, but still I would like to share some of the 3-4 key points. So the first point is like we understand, and the emphasis is like the how to trigger these community-led change processes, which is based on the community's needs, community's aspirations, the resources, and the opportunities. And that is the key actually. So community is the first, and that will bring more ownership of the community and more sustainable development at the community level. And for doing that, I think a lot of emphasis have been in the panel discussion also, like more capacity building more people, and then local stewardships, and building the panchayats, and building more local entrepreneurship at the panchayat level, at the SHGs level. I think that is very critical. And like during the first sessions, we have understood like more than 9.75 crores of women have been mobilized into SHGs, which is a very large social base. And there are already panchayats. So how to bring this PRI, CVO collaborations and then taking the Gram Panchayat as the planning unit, how the resource management plan and all the localization of SDGs can take place at the panchayat level. I think those were major highlights of the discussions. And so community at the center stage, and how to build and nurture the entire ecosystem. I think we have discussed a lot around that. And yeah, the next point is like how we can have a flexibility in the overall approach. Like it should not be a very copy-paste type of model actually. So it should be very much localized. So localized means context specific to rather than one size fits for all. And the evidence creation, data analysis, and this overall this PDI index is for whom? Actually it's for the community. And it's not for us actually. So ये जो data जिसके लिए ज़रूरत है, अगर वो understand करता है, I think the locus of initiative, locus of the control, locus of influence should be with the community. I think that is the core point again came from the discussion actually. And also we have understood like the local and micro level solutions are very much important. However, we should not miss the mega picture actually. So the macro level solutions and seeing the problems in a very bigger frame and what works at scale actually. I think so we need to simplify the entire processes actually, and how we can design the impact at scale actually. I think lots of discussion have been around that actually. And as we understand, it's like we need to solve the diversity at scale and not the uniformity actually. So in that context, the co-learning and co-creation of this government, CBOs, CSOs, donors, partnerships, it's very much important actually. And this also, this localization of SDGs also, there is a targeted investment. So I think the LSTG framework gives us that opportunity how the investment can be more targeted and how we can include the single women, the most vulnerable old age persons and the most vulnerable households in the entire planning process, and there would be more focused plan around those persons actually. And the last point is like how to orchestrate a convergence between the larger variety of stakeholders, government, CBOs, CSOs, the private parties, corporates, and then technical agencies, academic institutions like NIRD and SIRDs, and overall also the markets actually, and the CSOs. And we are very much committed, like on behalf of CSOs and on behalf of Pradhan, I can say like it's an internal commitment towards the large scale change we are desiring for, and that nurturing the collaborations and partnerships with in alignment with the overall purpose of LSTGs. We are very much committed. And regarding this 2 days workshop, we will prepare a very I think they are preparing the sketch actually very nicely and thanks to that. And I think we will prepare a summary report and submit to the MORD and the MOPL. And also we'll do some of the consultation, similar type of consultation at the regional level, like maybe at the state level or combining 2-3 state levels. So that would be, I think that would bring much more focus around this overall agenda actually. And yeah. So thanks to all the panelists, the speakers, the audience. I think हम लोग काफ़ी patientfully सुने हैं, and I was told that like in the YouTube and the online sessions, more than 650 persons have joined yesterday. Yeah. And this Samagam is, as the word says, like the CSO partners, donors, corporates, the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, Ministry of Rural Development, experts from the various institute, NIRDs, the community-based institutions, from the Panchayats members, PRI representatives, then obviously Anode governance labs, colleagues from Pradhan, Bijanand sir, then Amarjit Sinha sir, and then Dr. Reddy is also there, Ram is there, Anjani is also here, Bed is here. And obviously the very good moderation by Anup and Sikha, I think those are excellent actually. And thank you so much. Yeah, I invite Jason to say the few words.
Thank you, Saroj. A big thank you to all of you, including the speakers, the panelists, for enriching a lot of information to us. The local SDGs, when this opportunity came to Axis Bank Foundation to work with Saroj on this particular Samagam, the gathering, it's not about the gathering of the people out over here, but the gathering of ideas, which is more important. And I'm sure that everybody who's moving out from this room would be much more enriched. Secondly, is that when I come from the funding agency perspective, I would say that it's also important that when we were speaking about during yesterday's panel, we were speaking about sharing knowledge. It's not about only sharing knowledge amongst the CSOs, but I feel that it's also moral obligation, or I could say that educating the corporates, the funding agencies about the long-term impacts. Correct? Because when we speak about localizing SDGs, which is like a goalpost for us, unfortunate the part is that the funding agencies look at short-term impacts. not I could say short-term impacts, but short-term outputs, not even outcomes or impact part. It's also important for them to understand that there is a need for a long-term partnership. And we have been fortunate enough that we are partnered with Pradhan for the past nearly about, I think, 12 plus years continuously, and we are working across many states, including Chhattisgarh, MP, West Bengal, Jharkhand. And we have observed the impact, I could say, not only the outcomes, but impact. And I feel the SDGs, which we are talking about in these last 1.5 days, will also take a long term work which we all have to do it, because we do a lot of activities like we said yesterday, but the SDG is like a matrix which enables us to look at in that data, and at certain point of time there were discussions whether we need it at the community level or whether it should be like a felt need, correct? But I think many a times data gives us that confidence that this information which is there's a need for this particular activity to be undertaken. It's not necessary that we need to do all of them together, but one by one, each of the activities, each of the indicators can be worked upon. So the examples which they spoke about, in 10 years change has happened. No doubt, I think if we all collaborate together, the change is imminent. And thank you so much for inviting us.
Okay, I was told that I could have a quick word out here. Maybe not the last word, but nevertheless. So this is to felicitate 4 champions behind this whole initiative: Saroj, Jason, and our 2 champion anchors, Master of Ceremonies, Shikha and Anup. So Madhu, can you come around? Madhu, are you around? Madhu. You can. Madhu is making her own choices. Jason? It's the thought that counts. Shikha? So Shikha and Anup have taken us through the entire 1.5 days. I think their energy and their commitment has been brilliant. So big hand to them. Thank you, Shikha. Anup? Anup? You should be used to the limelight now. Generally on the other side of the camera. Sukanto, you want to come up for the vote of thanks?
So, thank you so much, everyone. I think our two-day event, very fruitful 2 days, has come to an end, and I think it's a privilege for me to invite Sukant for the vote of thanks. And before inviting him, I would just share a brief introduction about him. So Sukant is associated with Pradhan for the last 27 years and has been involved in ensuring the livelihoods of the marginalized. He has been involving in nurturing the idea of recognizing the woman as an economic actor in the family while ensuring more control over income by the women members of the family. He has the experience of leading large-scale livelihood programs in collaboration with government and funding agencies. For the last 7 years, he has been involved in strengthening local governance while promoting citizenship and empowering Gram Sabha and Gram Panchayats. At present, he is holding the portfolio of Lead Center of Excellence Local Governance in Program, Pradhan. With this, I welcome Sukant for the vote of thanks. Okay, so before we go for the vote of thanks, I think on behalf of Samagam, we would like to felicitate our two tremendous sketchers, Shikha and Dinesh, and we would like to welcome them on stage. And to do the honors, Sharwani will facilitate them. A big round of applause for both of them. They have done a great job.
And I'm giving the red to him and not her.
So just let me conclude the 1.5 days. I think we have a very wonderful time all together, and we have deliberated on the most important topics that the country is dealing with, the localization of SDGs. So first of all, take this opportunity to thanks Niti Aayog for their participation and also supporting us. Then of course CII, they have also supporting us and also participated in this whole workshop. And we must thankful to Axis Bank Foundation for their support. And especially I mentioned the support of Dhrubi, who has actually supported us like in day out. जैसे ये नहीं हुआ, इसको ठीक करो, इसको आगे बढ़ाओ. This is like a participant. CS, and also I thank Salman, Jason, Samia and Isha, who have worked tirelessly with all of us. Then we must thank Anode Governance Lab for coming up these two beautiful reports on PDI and LSDGs, and who has become a kind of a co-traveler with us. I must thank Padma and Sonali, who has become almost like a Pradhanites. And the MXV, who has helped us preparing the summary reports and the rapporteuring. And you have all seen the beautiful sketches that is coming out. We must thank Dinesh and Sikha, and we will all get this in our reports. So that's a wonderful work that they have done. And we all have seen the beautiful movies that has come out. So we thanks Prasoon Jasi for the lyrics. And the song for this, come up with Akshay and IP for the music. And we must thank Kirit Khurana and his team at Climb Media for making the film. And now we thank all our distinguished speakers. We have heard about their valuable inputs, what they have given to us for the last 2 days, very, very insightful. And we must mention the people, especially from the Gram Panchayats, who have actually come together and shared their experiences. It's a should special mention, and also we must mention the people who have like Ram, W.R. Reddy, who have actually Ilango, who have actually come from outside and can just making this them available and sharing their inputs. And we must thank the India Habitat Center and all their staffs who have actually worked hard to make these events available. And not but the least, Mr. S.M. Bijanand, who always a kind of inspiration for all of us and guiding us and making this this possible. And we have seen Sikha and Anup for their beautiful anchoring of this whole process. And behind all these things happening for the last 3 months, we are preparing. So a lot of people have worked hard for the last 3 months. So he mentions the name Nivedita, Sikha, Anuj, Amit, Sivasuraya, Teja, Himadri, Soparna, Sudhir, and of course Saroj and Naren. Then we have Pranab, we have Somma, Pooja, Prachi, Subhalakshmi, Mohini. They have all worked hard for make this happen. And also I thanks all our participants and all who have joined online for making this thing happen. All thank you. Thank you very much.